City Council on a rainy day.
The broadcast is now starting.
My
All
goodness,
attendees are in listen-only mode.
Clerk, can we call the roll, please?
Yes. Miranda.
Here.
Maniscalco. Here. Hertek.
Here.
Young. Here. Vieira. Carlson. Here. Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. As some of you can see, we can see, but y'all can't yet. Councilwoman Hertek is under the weather, and out of respect for us to not get us sick, she decided to stay home and participate virtually. Thank you for joining us, Councilwoman Hertek. And Councilman Vieira will be here. He's just not here yet. He's stuck in traffic coming from Georgia, where he lives. Mr. Shelby.
Yep, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Good evening. Could we have a motion to, per your rules, to permit Councilwoman Hertek to participate?
I have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Carlson to allow virtual participation in this meeting by Councilwoman Hertek. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome, Councilwoman Hertek. You're now official.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to first recognize, you see we have some special guests in the audience, and I'd like to recognize Councilman Miranda.
Thank you much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, Honorable Member, Tampa City Council, my pleasure this evening to be here with a group that has given a lot to our country, not yesterday, not today, not tomorrow, but forever. And these fine group have also had from Mr. Frank Smith, I believe District 5, is that it? Post 5. Post 5. I'm District, you're the councilman, but it is Post 5, and I apologize to all of you. Frank, will you stand next to me, please? Today, Tampa City Council proudly honors 4 participants in the American Legion Oratorical Contest for high school students representing Central Area of Florida, which is the Florida West Coast. To tell you a little bit about the contest, I'd like to turn over District 16, which is, this includes District 16, which includes Pine Alice and Pasco County Oratorical Chairman, Mr. David Klinger. David?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, sir.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. I'm Dave Klinger. I want to give you a little bit of the background about the Oratorical. Since 1938, the American Legion National Oratorical Contest has helped youth deepen their understanding of the Constitution, develop the leadership, and earn scholarships through public speaking. It is a 5-level contest where students without notes deliver 2 speeches on the U.S. Constitution. One of the contests that you are recognizing tonight will be in the 4th level Department Florida contest this weekend, which is held in Orlando. And if she wins, it's a $2,500 scholarship. If she wins that, she moves on to the national contest, which the finals will be held at Hillsdale College in Michigan, May 15th through the 17th. She has an opportunity to win a $25,000 scholarship. So rather than going to describe what the contest is about, tonight our designated Central Area Winter Commander or winter person will deliver a 3 to 5 minute speech on a section of the U.S. Constitution. And again, thank you for the opportunity to support our students here.
Before we honor our students, I would like to recognize the role of our veteran Legionnaires who helped and put this contest together this year. And David, again.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hey, obviously I'm Dave Klinger. I served combat U.S. Army. I am a retired nurse. I am a member of Post 275 in Dunedin. I am a past national judge for the Oratorical, as well as the department judge here in Florida. And I'm internal affairs for the American Legion for Department of Florida. Thank you.
And our good friend who is the commander for the whole area is Rick O. We just want to say hi to the council members.
Good evening. My name is Rick Orzakowski. Everybody calls me Rico for that reason. I served in the U.S. Air Force from 1969 to 1973. I'm a member of Post 8 in Winter Haven, and I'm the Central Area Commander for the American Legion. I'm a retired law enforcement officer also, so thank you.
Thank you, Commander.
You know, without education, these students in all of America would be second to no one from the bottom up. My next group I'd like to cite is the educators who are filling such an important role of our children and the lives that they serve in this community. With the educators? I'll be us? Yes. Well, us come here then.
There you go, Commander. Good evening. My name's Bradford Lee. I served in the U.S. Army from 1983 to 2004. I am now retired. I am a member of Post 79. I serve as the commander of Post 79. I was also a judge for our oratorical contest. So thank you very much. This contest brings back the confidence I have in today's youth. When you sit and listen to them without help, and it's nice to see. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us. My name is Dennis LaFernier. I served aboard the USS Boston from 1966 to 1970. It's a heavy guided missile cruiser, and we served in Vietnam for 3 tours. I'm a retired firefighter from the city of Malden, Mass., and currently I am the post adjutant at Post 79 in Newport Richey. Again, I have to reiterate what the commander said about the youth of America and where they are heading today. We see an awful lot of youth that are not interested in what's going on in America, but we have people behind us that are showing you today what the youth of America is really about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Frank Smith. I served in the United States Army and Army Reserve from 1974 to 2005. I'm employed as a systems analyst for Compass Point Federal, which is a defense contractor at MacDill Air Force Base. And I'm a member of Post 5, and for the past 17 years I've served as the Oratorical Chairman for our post. I want to thank the council for honoring us for the 17th year in a row, and also our sponsor, the people that sponsor our gifts, the law firm of Winters and Yonker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, educators. Now for the main event. Would Miles please come up to the podium and introduce yourself to the council?
Good evening, City Council. My name is Chief Warrant Officer Martin. I currently serve at Gulf High School as a senior naval science instructor. I've been there for a little less than a year, coming off active duty. Currently, I served, first service was 2004, and then I came off active duty in 2025. And thank you for your time, and thank you for honoring these students today.
I'm shuffling through these papers because this is the first time I've seen them.
Got 5 more teachers to go.
Huh?
Got more teachers.
Oh, more teachers? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was my pleasure. I'm sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ryan Travers, and I'm an administrator at Bayshore Christian School. And we just want to thank you for your time and the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Next teacher.
Good evening, good afternoon. I'm Jeannie McNamara. I'm the proud principal of the Academy of the Holy Names, and I am thrilled to be here to honor our candidate, Brianna Payaguer.
How about that traffic in front of Holy Names?
Yeah, how about? Do you guys do something about that?
Hello, my name is Eric Price. I've been teaching in Tampa about 10 years. Currently, I teach STEM, computer science, math, and science classes at the Academy of the Holy Names. So I just wanted to take some time to thank you, and thank you for honoring these exceptional students tonight.
Thank you.
Hey, council members, thank you again. My name is Darren Spencer. Wearing multiple hats, I'm a member of Post 5, Air Force retired, and actually a JROTC teacher at Jefferson High School, home of the Dragons. So thank you very much.
Not even a Go Dragons from Charlie Miranda when you mentioned the Dragons?
He's busy. I'm used to winging a lot of things, but this is not winging. This is people that really deserve what the attention that they should get, not only here in the city of Tampa, but the whole country. Brianna, on behalf of Tampa City Council, we would like to congratulate you and bring you your plaque, but I have the wrong page because, like I said, this is unrehearsed.
No, right there, this guy, Miles. Right here, next group, educators. No,
We've done that.
Yeah, here you go, thank you, yeah.
All right, thank you, educators. Now for the main event, would Miles please come to the podium and introduce yourself to the council? I think that was done. Wasn't that done?
Behind you, other shoulder.
Bring up Miles.
Miles?
Slavinsky? Yes, sir. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miles Slavinsky. I'm currently a senior at Gulf High School in Newport Richey, Florida. I've recently been nominated as Outstanding Senior and valedictorian of the school, and I want to say before I leave, thank you to all of my educators, everyone here who's helped me along the way. Part of that is my American Legion Post 79. Without the various resources that they've helped me achieve, not only in the oratorical contest, but also at Boys State and almost Boys Nation, it's helped me a lot, developed me into who I am today, who I've become, and who I hope to be in the future at the Air Force Academy.
Definitely not an underachiever. Wow. Good evening.
Which is you,
This one, sir.
And the next one participant is going to receive, and I'll give them all out as soon as I finish with them.
Just say it, Fritz Carr, yeah.
Fritz Carr, on behalf of Tampa City Council, we would like to congratulate you and present you with this plaque, winning the bronze medal of Post 5 contest. This marks the second time we have had the honor with you and participation. Wish you well, and you're to enter USF. A
Go
Fighting
Bulls.
Bull. That's wonderful. And never mind.
I'd like to thank my teachers and my family, and most importantly, God, because they've given me many opportunities. And while I may not be perfect, I can always have room to grow. So, thank you.
Go Bulls. Congratulations.
Is Marco here?
No.
Okay.
Stuck in traffic, unfortunately.
On behalf of Tampa City Council, this is for Marco Blanco Suarez. Easy name for me to pronounce. Marco, on behalf of Tampa City Council, wherever you're at, we would like to congratulate you and present you with this plaque for what?
Still in front, I guess. All right. I'll make sure he gets this in class tomorrow, and I'll properly bug him for being in traffic and getting stuck.
We're going to present this in a second to all
Yes.
of you. Brianna, yeah, I got it. Okay. I got to find it first.
I'm running out of copies.
I understand. Brianna, on behalf of Tampa City Council, we would like to congratulate you and your president on this plaque for winning the gold medal in Post 5 contest and being designated winner of 15th District and Central Area Contest. We wish you the best of the Department Championship this weekend in Orlando. And when you attend Florida Girls State this summer, you're a fantastic person. I know you went to the Academy or in the Academy Holy Name as a junior.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. Good evening. My name is Brianna Pegira. I am a junior at the Academy of the Holy Names in Tampa on Bayshore, and I am very honored and very grateful to be here, to be honored, and I just want to really thank you and express my deepest gratitudes for having me here today. Thank you to Mrs. McNamara and my STEM teacher, Mr. Price, for also being here to celebrate my accomplishments with me, and also to my mom and my dad for always supporting me. And I will try my best to do well in the state competition this weekend, and I will try my best to bring home a win.
Best of luck.
She's gonna give a speech now. She's gonna
Well,
give a 3-minute speech.
Yeah, she's going to give a 3 to 5 minute speech, and believe me, you will not be disappointed. And then we're going to ask the council members, never been done before, if you come down and take a picture with the 4 recipients. Thank you.
So in this oratorical contest, there are 2 speeches that I give. One of them is a 10-minute prepared oration, and then another one is a randomly assigned topic from 4 that were given previously. And the one that I chose to give you all today is from Article 6, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution. And so I hope that you enjoy the speech. Article 6, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution states, "All executive and judicial officers shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States." In one single sentence, the Constitution accomplishes something rare. It binds power tightly while freeing belief entirely. All public officials must swear loyalty not to a person, not to a party, not to an ideology, but to the Constitution itself, to the Constitution of this country, the United States of America. And this oath is not symbolic. It is a declaration that authority flows from law, not personal conviction. That power is conditional, but service is accountable. But just as firmly, the Constitution rejects religious tests. Faith is not a prerequisite for service. Belief is not a barrier to service. The government cannot demand conformity of conscience as the price for participation. And this was a radical idea in its time. Most governments tied authority to religious identity. But our Constitution's framers chose a different path. Not because they rejected faith, but because they had seen conflicts and persecution arise from state-sponsored religions. Because the foundational establishment of our government is not based on secular belief, it is based on the consent of the governed, on the promise to uphold our nation's fundamental values and principles. And this protection was reinforced in the case of Torcaso versus Watkins, where the Supreme Court struck down a requirement that public officials declare belief in God. The court made clear that the government cannot condition public service on religious faith, affirming that loyalty to the Constitution, not adherence to a creed, is the only legitimate qualification for office. And in 2026, this protection is indispensable. Our society is more socially, culturally, and religiously diverse, and more ideologically divided than ever before. This clause ensures that public trust rests on conduct, not creed. Article 6, Clause 3 reminds us that a free nation, that a free society, does not demand sameness. It demands responsibility. And our duties and obligations as citizens are to defend freedom of belief, to reject religious discrimination, to protect the rights of those who may think differently from us, and to ensure that public office remains open to all, regardless of identity, belief, or faith. The Constitution binds leaders to duty while liberating citizens to believe freely. And in doing so, it proves that unity does not require uniformity. It requires action. And that action is the responsibility of citizens and government leaders alike to uphold the Constitution together, different in belief, but united in duty, because the freedom to differ is a fundamental democratic right that allows our society to flourish. And that is a right that can never be taken away from us. Thank you.
For those of you who want to be in the picture, if you want to come up here, this is a better shot, better
We're
picture.
going to come upstairs, we're going to go up there, the 3 plus, Mr. Shelton, you're going to represent Marco. Let's go up front.
Microphone's down.
Follow me. Vamos. Mano, ven para acá. Por favor. Please. Good job. Come with us, come with us.
You're a kid.
Y'all fill in there. Come over this way a little bit.
Now I feel old. Look at all those young guys. Good job. Thank you.
Let's go out to the steps and we'll get a picture of us. We do that every year, right? Steps in the elevator.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, now I think there's a collective sigh of relief and joy and excitement in the next item that we've moved to, item number 2. Good evening.
Rebecca Johns, Legal Department. We are pleased to present the collective bargaining agreement with the local union number 754, the IAFF. The city and the fire union worked very hard to come to an agreement that was beneficial for both parties. The firefighter union has ratified and approved this contract. I won't go into details of the agreement. We provided you with an executive summary that shows the changes that were made in this contract as compared to the 2022 through 2025 CBA. I do have one correction in the executive summary I just want to put on the record. In section 3 for the union hours, it should say 3520 union hours instead of 3250 union hours. So the union leave hours went up. We ask that you approve this agreement tonight so that the city can get everything into the system so that the new wages can go into effect April 1st. Rebecca Carr, Dennis Rogero, and myself are here if you have any questions. I do want to note that Kelly Austin wanted to be here to present this tonight, but she's been under the weather this week, so she wasn't able to attend. So if you have any questions, we are here.
Does council have any questions? Okay, very good. I know you worked really hard at this, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, many of us had been to the negotiations. There were a lot of contested issues, and I wanted to thank everybody was on top of their game, staff, management, labor. It was a real pleasure to see Nick Stocco in action there. He and his board always did a great job. I was asked to read, if I may, just for the record, a message from Local 754, very briefly, which states in relevant part, the membership participation and vote was historic for organization. 550 firefighters cast ballots representing approximately 72% of the bargaining unit, one of the highest participation levels we have seen. Of those votes, 499 voted yes, 51 voted no, 90% approval by the members who voted. All voting was conducted in person by secret ballot throughout the week at the Union Hall And in closing, on behalf of the members of IAFF Local 754, we respectfully ask for your support of file number 2622306 this evening. This agreement represents a good faith effort between the city and Tampa firefighters to provide stability, competitive compensation, and continued high-level service to the residents of Tampa. So just for the record.
Very good. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to item number 2? Very good. Councilman Vieira, would you like to read file number F2622306?
Yes, sir, my pleasure. I move file number F26-22306, a resolution approving, ratifying, and confirming the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Tampa and local union number 754, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, effective through September 30th, 2028, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Do we have to roll call? Okay. Really?
Hurtek,
Yes.
Young, Vieira, Carlson, Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried unanimously.
I apologize, I was supposed to, may I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, that Local 754 was going to be here. I think everybody knows, because members of the public, they were on a return trip to DC. The flight got delayed, so just for the record. Thank you.
Terrible weather.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I thank staff as well. I think staff, they went really in hard for this, so thank you guys for all the work that you guys did. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, can I get a motion to open up the 501 public hearings? We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. If you are here in the audience tonight and you're planning on testifying in any of the public hearings, can you please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our clerk? Thank you so much. We are on item number 3, and we are going to buzz through tonight.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Christopher Dimash with Development Coordination. Agenda item number 3 is REZ 25112. This is a request to rezone 2907 West Euclid Avenue from RS60 to RS50. I'll turn it over now to the Planning Commission.
Good evening.
Good evening, Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. We did provide a revised staff report just to clarify that this site is within the coastal high hazard area. It's within the South Tampa Planning District, the Bayshore Beautiful Neighborhood, and the Coastal High Hazard Area in Evacuation Zone A. The subject site is outlined in purple, roughly 400 feet west of Bayshore Boulevard. This portion of West Euclid Avenue is primarily developed with single-family homes. This map shows the adopted future land use as residential 10, which surrounds the site on all sides and supports low-density residential development. Residential 83 and residential 20 are located 1 block north near Bayshore Boulevard and Waverly Avenue. The request is rezoned from RS60 to RS50. Under the adopted R10 designation, the site may be considered for up to 2 dwelling units. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the surrounding single-family development pattern. Overall, the request is consistent with the residential 10 designation and the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none.
For the record again, Christopher Dimash, Development Coordination. The subject site is located on the north side of West Euclid Avenue. It's at the intersection of West Euclid and South Waverly Court. The subject property is developed with a single-family detached dwelling. Surrounding the subject parcel are single-family detached dwellings to the north, south, east, and west. It is all RS60 zoning with the exception of 2 lots that are located on the south side of West Euclid Avenue that are zoned RS50. The subject parcel, this survey shows it at the corner of South Waverly Court and West Euclid Avenue. The site has approximately 110 feet of street frontage on South Waverly Court and 100 feet of street frontage along West Euclid Avenue. I provide an analysis in my staff report on pages 3 and 4, which I will now review with you. The subject site is part of the Bella Vista subdivision, lots 34 and 35, which was originally platted in 1916. The area of analysis included 224 parcels. 119 parcels, or 53%, have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 105 parcels, or 47%, have been developed with a width of 59.99 feet or less. The subject block face on the north side of West Euclid Avenue that runs from South Waverly Court to Bayshore Boulevard has widths ranging from 60 feet to over 100. Excluding the subject site, 3 or 100% of the parcels on the subject block have a width of 60 feet or greater, with one measuring 60 feet to 64.99 feet in width, one measuring 75 feet to 79.99 feet in width, and one measuring 80 feet to 99.99 feet in width. Also, the block face running from South McDill Avenue to South Waverly Court contains 7 lots with widths ranging from 75 feet to over 100 feet. All 7 or 100% of the parcels have a width of 60 feet or greater, with one measuring 75 feet to 79.99 feet in width, 3 measuring 80 feet to 99.99 feet in width, and 3 measuring over 100 feet in width. Next, we have photos. This shows the subject property. Oops. A bit. Next, we have subject property. This is north of the subject property on South Waverly. This is south, on the south side of West Euclid. This next photo is the lot for this home. This is the actual, the 2 lots that are currently zoned RS50. Immediately east of the subject site. West of the subject site, this would be across South Waverly. And because this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan or elevations to show you. Staff's identified in the overall study area that 53% of the parcels have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 47% have a width of 59.99 feet or less in the study area. While there are a variety of lot sizes within the vicinity of the subject site, development review and compliance staff finds the proposed request to be inconsistent with the existing development pattern in the overall study area, and I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant?
Good evening, Council. I'm Eileen Rosario. This here is Mr. Jeffrey Jones, which is the homeowner. We're trying to rezone this, doing a Euclidean on this property to change it from an RS50 to RS60 to an RS50. Originally, this lot was platted in 1916 at 50 feet in width. Somewhere down the line, 2 lots became 1, but the zoning, somehow the city zoned it as an RS60. But the majority of the lots within that Euclid, Bay Villa, and Bay View, Bay Villa, and Bay Court, the majority of the lots are all zoned RS60, yes, true. But the lot width is only 50 feet wide. So you are technically, you're not in compliance with your lot size. So all we want to do is to be able to rezone the property. Eventually, Mr. Jones will choose what he wants to do with his property, whether he chooses to split it, sell it. I know he's trying to sell it now, the property now as is, but that's all we're trying to do is just make it a legal conforming RS50 as to what the plot was originally. Mr. Jones has a few things he would like to say.
Mr. Jones, start with your name, please.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman and fellow council members, thank you. My name is Jeffrey Jones. I reside at 2907 West Euclid Avenue in Tampa, and I'm here to request that my property be rezoned from R60 to R50. This would allow me to split the lot, but it wouldn't require it. It's a little bit more than a quarter of an acre, and I believe its highest and best use is to have 1 or 2 larger new homes. This will contribute more in tax revenues with no additional infrastructure and no additional costs to the city or the community. Larger homes will sell for more than my existing house could ever sell for, which increases property values. There are only benefits, I believe, for the city, for the neighborhood, and for taxpayers. Higher density is a good thing. The city needs more housing. This would create the opportunity for 1 more. Greater density will not cause harm to any property owner nearby. No harms have been demonstrated by the very few letter writers opposed to my application. who mentioned only some broad, unsupported allegations, but I would like to address each one of those directly. One was pedestrian safety. Euclid has sidewalks and parkways on both sides of the street. There will be no erosion of pedestrian safety. Traffic. Euclid's a collector street. It's intended to gather traffic from neighborhood streets and funnel it into to and from main thoroughfares. It will not exacerbate traffic. Neighborhood character. This property has been my residence for 32 years, and I've loved living there. During that time, half of the houses on the first 2-block stretch of Euclid have been replaced, demolished and replaced. Larger, more expensive 2- and 3-story homes have replaced them. My house is a modest single-story ranch built in 1961. It's the only original home left and the smallest on the street. The larger homes on this property will be similar to the newer homes that already exist on the street that have been built since I've lived there. This will put the property more in character with the existing neighborhood. It will not suffer. And precedent, I think, is the big one. There are already multiple properties nearby that were rezoned R50, including the one in the photo directly across the street from me on the other side of Euclid. There are also multiple homes on 55-foot lots on streets parallel to Euclid. Whether they're zoned that way or not, that's the size of the lot. And they're all in the same block as mine, the 2900 block. It's the first block off Bayshore. These homes exist on West Bay Villa, West Bay Vista, West Bay View, and West Ham Base, the streets immediately south of Euclid. And there is at least one on El Prado, the street, a couple streets north, and others in that area. Without rezoning, the alternatives are less desirable for all parties. One alternative would be that I have to sell it as it is at a much lower price than any other house on the block. I've had multiple lowball offers, 75% of asking price. Some people wanted to buy it to live in it, like I do. Some intended to rent it, and some rent it out. Excuse me. Some intended to do a gut renovation, but none of these alternatives would be as beneficial to all concerned parties, namely the city, the neighbors, and me. If I'm forced to accept a lowball offer, it would harm property values nearby because my property would be a comparable sale when other properties come on the market, and that would lower the value of those properties. In summary, I just want my property rezoned from R60 to R50 because I believe it'll be the highest and best use. I believe it'll increase revenue for the city. I believe it'll increase home values. I believe it'll fit well into the neighborhood. I believe it will create no costs or problems to the city or the neighbors. And there are multiple precedents for the rezoning. I'd just like the city to give me the same opportunity, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear our case. Thank you
so much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to item number 3? Okay. If anybody else in the public, if you stand up along the line, sir, you can come up to the podium, start with your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Bill Wadsworth, and I live at 3611 Bayshore Boulevard, 4 houses down from this house. And appreciate your comments. All due respect, you're the applicant. I would try to do the same thing, but this Euclid Avenue is not the typical side street off of Bayshore Boulevard. The city's staff that did the report, I looked at that. They went 5 streets north and 5 streets south. And there are a number of houses on 50-foot lots on those streets. On Euclid Avenue between Bayshore and McDill, there's 22 parcels, 0 houses are on a 50-foot lot. There's a number of 60-foot, and it's currently zoned as RS60. I don't have any idea how the 2 lots across the street got zoned RS50. I wasn't living there at the time, but I was the owner of the property, and I don't remember getting a notice. And I can tell you, the city staff quote said they find the request inconsistent with City of Tampa code ordinances. And there's a couple other things. The Euclid, it's more than just your typical traffic. Fire and emergency vehicles are on that street all the time, buses, large trucks, construction trucks. Yes, there's sidewalks on each side, and that's a good thing because there's a lot of pedestrians, mothers with strollers, elderly people walking their dogs. And I also noticed that in the agenda package for today, there's only 2 opposition letters. And I know for a fact that at the November meeting when this came up, there were probably 6 or 7 opposition letters or emails in that file for the agenda at that time. I don't know why they don't carry forward. I don't know why. Hopefully you see them, and hopefully the city staff is aware of those. But I printed them, so I guarantee you they were there. I just think there are safety concerns. There's the coastal hazard concerns. There's all the extra things. Is that my 3 minutes?
Oh, you got 30 seconds more.
30
There's a little
seconds.
timer there, you
Okay.
see.
I just think this is a bad place where there's 0 houses on 50-foot lots to start that right now. And one other thing, this particular lot, it's 110 feet deep versus everything on that side is 145. I have no idea where the 35 feet went at some point in the past. But to take an even smaller lot and cut it in half,
Now you're
not a
right.
good idea.
Thank you very much for your input. Anybody else in the public wishes to speak this item? Mr. Shelby, I know we've received those emails, but is there only 2 in the file? So what's
Pardon me?
I know we've received emails on this. but-
Well, they should have been uploaded. Do you want to make, just for the purposes of the record, do you want to make a motion to receive and file those into the record that have been available?
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda, to receive and file the emails that have been received on this issue into this file. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
And I see Councilman Hurtak. Now, Councilman Hurtak, I didn't hear your voice, so you muted?
Aye, sorry.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay. And nobody else in the public, right? Okay. Public comment is closed. Anybody want to speak to this issue?
Oh, you want to, if there's, I'm sorry, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. If there are any questions, now would be the time, and then rebuttal.
Yeah. Is there any further questions from council? No? Does the applicant wish to have rebuttal? Okay. Hearing none. We have a motion to close. Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Viera. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Very good. I'll start because this is kind of something that was near when I ran for office. Part of the about the South Tampa being full thing that I've set up, and I'm empathetic with the homeowner, but as we saw, as staff has highlighted, over 53% of the lots in this area are zoned RS60. It's definitely the character of that neighborhood, specifically north of Euclid, that is the vast majority. And if we start approving this, it's a slippery slope, and we're putting density in an area that we don't want additional density. In other words, 1 house is there now, we split this, it's now 2. And if that trend could continue, it's in an area, we're not trying to encourage density in this particular area of our city in this part of South Tampa. We're trying to push density into the other neighborhoods. So this would absolutely go against what this city council has stood for. One of the things I know that the applicant talked about was the de minimis impact, but because that is a very pedestrian-friendly environment with sidewalks, you end up having an additional curb cut, which is something we also attempt to try to minimize on these areas with sidewalks and bicycle lanes as we minimize those curb cuts. So I'm not going to support this Euclidean zoning request. Anybody else? Councilman Maniscalco.
If there's nobody else, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Councilman Maniscalco.
No.
Okay, do you want to talk? Go ahead.
I agree with what you've said. Therefore, I'd like to make a motion to deny item number 3, REZ 25-112, based on the inconsistency finding by the city, and in regards to specifically those percentages that were showed in the in the staff report. Also, in comparison to the surrounding area and what you mentioned about coastal high hazard, the density, the increasing of the density, and specifically what we hear over and over again, that these areas of the city that are most vulnerable, and this is one of them, increasing that density is not a wise decision. That's my motion.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from? Second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Roll
I'm
call,
sorry.
roll call.
A roll call vote.
Young. Vieira. Carlson. Miranda. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Hurtek.
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. And just a reminder, we can't do electronic tonight because we have a virtual participation with Councilwoman Hurtek, so all the roll call votes will have to be verbal.
Good evening, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is REZ 25126, request to rezone 4102 North 22nd Street from CG to PD for residential single-family attached. I'll turn it over to the Planning Commission staff.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the historic Belmont Heights neighborhood, and the East Tampa Urban Village. It's also within Evacuation Zone E. The subject site is outlined in purple. The surrounding area contains a mix of residential, commercial, and institutional uses, with single-family homes to the west and commercial uses to the north and south along North 22nd Street. South of MLK is Belmont Heights Ballpark and Memorial Park Cemetery. Farrell Preparatory Academy is to the northeast, and Lockhart Elementary and Young Middle School are to the southwest. This map shows the adopted future land use as Community Mixed Use 35, which supports medium-density residential, commercial, and mixed-use development. CMU 35 is located along North 22nd Street, with Community Commercial 35 along MLK. The blue represents public semi-public for Farrell Preparatory Academy, and the green represents the rec open space for the cemetery and the park. The request is to rezone from CG to PD to allow 4 single-family attached units on a vacant site. This is consistent with the density anticipated under the CMU 35 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the surrounding area. The design orients front doors towards East Ida Street and North 22nd Street with a sidewalk connection to the right-of-way. Overall, the proposal provides infill development within the East Tampa Urban Village and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Hearing none. Ms. Pope.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. I'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and surrounding area. The subject site is surrounded in red on the west side of 22nd Street, and this is Ida right here, East Martin Luther King Boulevard. To the north, east, and south, the parcel is surrounded by commercial zoning with CI zoning and commercial uses. This is the Preparatory Academy, which Planning Commission staff mentioned. And then to the west is RS 50 zoning with residential single-family uses. Here's the site plan provided by the applicant. Here's 22nd Street. Here's East Ida. There are 4 attached, single-family attached units. Units 1, 2, and 3 have front doors facing East Ida. Unit 4 has a front door facing North 22nd Street. Each unit has a 2-car garage with entry from East Ida Street, and then there is 1 guest parking space. Each unit is proposed at 35 feet in height. Next, we have the elevations. Here you can see the south elevation and the east elevation. Then you have the north elevation and the west elevation. There are 2 waivers with this request. Waiver 1 is for a request to allow front door orientation for units 1, 2, and 3 to face East Ida Street. Waiver number 2 is a request to reduce the corner setback of the garage opening from the minimum setback of 15 feet to 7 feet. Next, I'll show some photos of the site and the surrounding area. This is the subject site on Ida looking north. This is the subject site from 22nd. This is the view looking east on Ida Street. This is east of the site across North 22nd Street. This is east of the site further down on 22nd where that preparatory academy is. This is west of the street, of the site on East Ida. North on North Bay Street. The south side of Ida, and then this is just south on 22nd. Development coordination and compliance staff reviewed the application and find the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. Should City Council approve the application and waivers requested, the modification to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second readings. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Applicant? Good evening.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Mario Espaillat. I'm the applicant. And I don't want to ruin a good presentation. All I need to say is we're just trying to make it better, make it beautiful, make it, that area is not developed, that whole block there on 22nd. By the way, the owner owns the two other lots on the same block, and he would like to do the same depending on the outcome of this. And that way, that block is going to be all residential and better looking for the neighborhood.
Very good.
Thank you very much for your time.
Does council have any questions? The only thing I would say is that as they go forward, if they could squeeze a little bit wider for garages so we can keep people from parking on the street, that'd be great. Just a little bit wider. Yeah.
You mean the garage for every unit?
Just a little bit wider, because sometimes when you get the narrow garages, people choose not to use the garage because.
Well, no, this is 20 by 20. This is a normal size
Yeah,
garage.
we're trying to get a little bit wider to make it a little bit easier for people. Not that that's going to stop your project, but
Next
just
time.
next time. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, very good. Any further questions? Okay. Anybody in the public wishes to speak to this item? We have a motion to close. Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Vieira, would you like to read this one, please?
Move ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property, general vicinity of 4102 North 22nd Street, City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from Zoning District Classification CG, Commercial General to PD, Plan Development, Residential, Single Family Attached, providing an effective date.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Are you up here for the next one, or you do want to
I
say
am,
something?
sorry.
Okay, very, no, I just want to make sure there wasn't something we overlooked. Okay, can we get a roll call vote, please? Yes, he did.
Vieira. Yes. Carlson. Oh, sorry. Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Hurtek.
Yes.
Young. Yes. Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried with Carlson absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 2nd, 2026. Did I read the last one? I don't think I read. Did I read the last second reading?
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
that was a denial, so we didn't have to.
Oh, was it denied? Okay, sorry. Thank you, sorry. For item number 4, second reading and adoption will be held on April 2nd, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 5 is REZ 25129. This is a request to rezone 2707 East 22nd Avenue, Unit 1 from RM16 to Planned Development for residential single-family semi-detached uses. I'll turn it over now to Planning Commission staff.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the North Ybor neighborhood, and the East Tampa Urban Village. It's also within Evacuation Zone E. The subject site is outlined in purple. This portion of East 22nd Avenue is primarily developed with single-family detached homes, with some two-family uses nearby. Public and semi-public uses are concentrated along North 28th Street, and 2 cemeteries are located 1 block west. This map shows the site designated as residential 20, which surrounds the site on all sides and supports low to medium density residential development. To the west is public, semi-public in blue, and the peach is residential 10. The request is rezoned from RM16 to PD to allow 2 single-family semi-detached dwelling units on a vacant site. The proposal is consistent with the density anticipated under the R20 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Both front doors orient toward a new sidewalk along East 22nd Avenue, which will improve pedestrian connectivity where sidewalks are currently lacking. Overall, the proposal supports compatible infill within the East Tampa Urban Village and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, good job. Next. See if you can speak that quick.
Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site. Subject property is outlined in red. It is located along the south side of East 22nd Avenue. The subject block is located east of North 22nd or 26th Street and west of North 29th Street. Properties to the north, south, east, and west consist of single-family detached dwellings. The surrounding zoning in all directions is RM16. We do have a site plan provided by the applicant. The site plan shows a single structure with two single-family semi-detached units. Each unit does provide a single vehicle garage. Additional parking would be provided in the driveways. The front doors for each unit face East 22nd Avenue, as well as vehicular access is provided by the same right-of-way. These are the elevations for the subject site. This depicts a single structure. Max height proposed is 33 feet 4 inches. There are also no waivers requested with this PD rezoning this evening, and the elevations show the subject structure in all directions. I have some photos to show. This is the photo of the subject site. This is looking north across East 22nd, south of the subject site, east of the subject site, west of the subject site. This is looking east on East 22nd Avenue, and lastly, looking west down East 22nd Avenue. Development Coordination Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We find the request consistent with the Land Development Code. Should be the pleasure of City Council to approve the application. Modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading, and I am available for any questions.
Any questions? Applicant?
Good evening, City Council. Jamie Mayer of the law firm Howard Henderson, representing the applicant, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700, and I have been sworn. I'll be super quick. I don't think there's a whole lot of additional color to provide here. Just that this lot is 0.01 acres shy of what they would need to have 2 units by right under R20. And so we're entering into a bonus provision agreement, or that's what we're seeking, to get that additional, and the amount we're paying is for the full unit, so I think that's a benefit to the city. And I think we think this is an appropriate project. No waivers, as you heard. It complies with everything it would have to comply with, and just needs the PD for that additional kick in density, which will be paid for. So we respectfully request your approval unless there are any questions.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Anybody in the public wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none.
Move to close.
A motion. Oh, go ahead.
Is there a reason why you went for the three stories, like looking at the surrounding homes in the area?
So I think it was a 2-story originally. It was a single-family home that was 2 stories. If we weren't asking for a PD, it could be 3 stories because we're complying with the height. I'm not the contractor, of course, so I don't know exactly what the design desire was, but that was what they landed on. I think largely because the garage takes up a significant amount of the first floor, primarily.
Okay.
You good? Okay, we had a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the ayes have it. CTTV, can I get Councilwoman Hurtak back up, please? Very good, there you are. Okay, clerk, can you call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry, we have to read it first. Councilwoman Hurtak, would you, Hurtak? What's your name? Councilwoman Young, would you like to read this? Yes.
Yes, okay. File number REZ-25-129, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2707 East 22nd Avenue, Unit 1 in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RM16, residential multifamily, to PD, plan development residential single-family semi-detached, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Young. We have a second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call, please.
Carlson? Miranda?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Hurtek?
Yes.
Young? Vieira? Clendenin?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried with Vieira absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 2nd, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you so much. On to item number 6.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 6 is REZ 2602, request to rezone 1008 West LaSalle Street from RS50 to PD for residential single-family semi-detached. I'll turn it over to the Planning Commission staff.
Steele Planning Commission, sorry. Quinn Steele Planning Commission staff. Ignore that scribbling. I wrote down some notes on the wrong map. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the West Riverfront neighborhood, and the West Tampa Urban Village. It's also within Evacuation Zone B. The subject site is outlined in purple. It's located south of I-275 and 1 block west of Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park. This portion of West LaSalle Street is primarily developed with single-family homes, with 2-family uses to the south and multifamily to the east. This map shows the site designated as a residential 20. To the east along North Boulevard are the CMU 35, UMU 60, and recreation open space designations. The request is rezoned from RS50 to PD to allow 2 single-family semi-detached dwelling units on a vacant site. The proposal is consistent with the density anticipated under the R20 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Both units orient towards West LaSalle Street with a sidewalk connection to the right-of-way. Overall, the proposal supports compatible infill within the West Tampa Urban Village and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. Ms. Pope?
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and surrounding areas. You can see the subject site outlined here in red. Here's West LaSalle, here's Delaware, Monroe, and this is North Boulevard and 275. The subject site is located on the south side of West LaSalle Street between North Monroe and North Delaware. The surrounding area's development pattern is comprised of single-family detached dwellings to the north, west, and east with RS50 zoning, and a single-family detached and 2-family and multifamily use to the south. I just wanted to point out that that is located right here. This is the subject property, and in the staff report, it says single-family detached. There is single-family detached, but there is also a multifamily directly south. And then the zoning, as you move east towards North Boulevard, the zoning transitions to commercial general along North Boulevard. This is just a map to show you the size of the lots. This is the parcel in the hatched area, and this is LaSalle. And while rezonings have occurred in the immediate area west of Delaware, the subject block contains larger lots at widths of 100 feet and greater. There have been no recent rezonings on the subject block, and the proposed lots are inconsistent with the development pattern on this block between Delaware Avenue and Monroe Street. Next, I'll show you the site plan provided by the applicant. Here is West LaSalle, and then this is the adjacent alley to the rear. The proposal shows the 1-car garage for each unit, and then 1 parking space in the driveway. The entry is from West LaSalle, and then the maximum building height is going to be 35 feet. The subject site is in the West Tampa Overlay District and adjacent to an alley, which is right here. The overlay standards require vehicular access from the alley when the alley is open and used. The alley located south of the property, while open, has been determined as unusable by transportation planning staff, and therefore the applicant has requested a waiver to the standard to allow front access on LaSalle. Here are the elevations provided by the applicant. The future land use is R20, which allows a maximum of 1 dwelling unit by right. The applicant is proposing construction of 2 semi-detached units and has entered into a bonus agreement for the additional unit. There is one waiver for this, and this waiver is the request to allow for vehicular access to the lot from the front rather than from the alley. Next, I'll show some photos of the site and surrounding area. This is the subject site on LaSalle. This is east of the site, west of the site, north of the site, northeast of the site at the corner of Monroe and LaSalle. This is a view looking west on LaSalle from Monroe. And this is that multifamily that is south of the parcel. The Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the petition and finds the request inconsistent with the applicant's City of Tampa land development regulations. Notwithstanding staff's finding of inconsistency, if City Council approves the application and waiver requested, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. I'm available for any questions.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is
sir.
anybody from transportation here?
Jonathan Scott from Transportation.
Jonathan
is
Scott,
here.
let's talk about alleys.
Jonathan
Is it-
Scott,
It's gonna be this one and the next one. I'm kind of confused because it seems as though these alleys are actually fairly decent shape. What's going on with this alley?
Let me check real quick on that one. Hold on a second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I did conduct a field review of these, and they were, they're physically open. They're unpaved and didn't show any sign of regular use, so they didn't meet that definition of open and used. So that was the determination that I had made when I looked at this alley.
Yeah, because Councilman Hurtak, did I see your hand wave? No, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with the area, but I'm not gonna provide testimony here. It just seemed like maybe I'll ask the applicant about the alleys when he comes up, but, okay.
Yes, very good.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, hello there.
Good evening,
I'm
council
not-
members.
I'm not even used to questioning any of your stuff. It usually just breezes right by, so let's talk. Go ahead.
I'm here for it, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, council members. My name is James Lascara. I'm the applicant and owner of 1008 West LaSalle Street, which we are proposing for single-family semi-detached use. This property was previously a house that was damaged in a fire, had a standing demolition order from the city for about a year before we bought it. I want to say first, I live right down the street, just 3 blocks away on Grace Street. I'm an advocate for supporting my own neighborhood and seeing it improve from within. I go for a walk every day in the neighborhood, and I really enjoy living here, and especially the people I've been able to meet. I'm not at all opposed to using the alleys. The council has seen our proposal for 1320 and 1318 Arch, which we incorporated thoughtful use of the alley for vehicle ingress on those, as well as on 1112 LaSalle Street, which had 4 of the 6 units using alley use for those when the alley was considered open and used. One of the things I appreciate about our neighborhood is its walkability to our larger Tampa community, shops and restaurants to the south, the new Publix to the north, Julian B. Lane Park to the east, and I'm excited to say the Riverwalk extension coming soon down Rome to our west. Entering the 4th year of me living in this neighborhood, I want to share that I'm committed to responsible growth in our own neighborhood, which is also located within the West Tampa Urban Village and the West Tampa CRA mentioned by staff. As a neighbor myself, I welcome the opportunity to see more families and residents to be able to enjoy the neighborhood I also appreciate. That's part of my vision for this project. Community support has also been strong. I noticed before getting up here that there were 80 emails of support from Tampa residents, 5 of which are neighbors within just blocks of the project, who know this community well and recognize the benefits of responsible development. The only waiver requested is supported by staff for the alley in accordance with the code guidelines for West Tampa overlay, specifically the language open and used. I do want to dive deeper into the development pattern, which was the finding of inconsistency. I appreciate staff's attention. Let's see those. I appreciate staff's attention to this specific block. In a situation like this, I think it's important that we also examine the development factors of the surrounding area. I've put forth here a GIS map that shows the development pattern and current use by the parcel. This block is atypical in that it's made up of less than half of a normal size block, totaling 5 platted lots wide. The normal size block that exists as the development pattern, every block west for numerous blocks, is 12 platted lots wide. That is the development pattern for the entire rest of the neighborhood, 12 platted lots instead of 5. This inherently means anything that happens on one lot of this subject block will have an outsized influence on the development pattern since there are simply fewer lots. Speaking of which, there hasn't been a change in development pattern on this block since Richard Nixon was president, which by the way was 1973. So I think the question we have to ask ourselves is our city different now than it was in 1973? And if so, should we consider thoughtful infill development differently than we did 53 years ago? And at a density in a key area of the city that serves our community? I think so. This community needs more housing options with updated available units, and I think this proposal is a good solution for how the missing middle gets built by us together. In yellow are properties that currently have single-family use. In orange are multi-unit properties, the same type of use we are proposing. I've depicted the subject property with a green dot and 2 adjacent comparables to the south with black dots. In terms of these adjacent properties and surrounding development, directly to the south at 1007 Arch Street is a 2-unit, 2-story multifamily on a 50 by 95 lot. 2 units on a 50 by 95 lot is the same proposal with this application, and that is the same use that exists directly.
I cannot see this.
Oh, CTTV, can we get this on the public screen? There we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the lot to the south is the same use that exists for what we are trying to propose. Here are the photos and property record cards. So I want to show that this is 1007 directly to the south first. So you can see that it is 2 stories, 2 units, and it's on a 50 by 95. Directly east of that, you'll see that it's actually on a 50 by 95 as well. I don't want to go too fast so that she can see, but it's 2 stories, 4 units, and also on a 50 by 95. These lots that I'm referring to are directly south of property, directly adjacent to the subject property. If we examine the broader development pattern of this area, every residential block in every direction has at least 2 lots of zoned or built multi-unit development. By parcels on each street, here are the totals. The street to the west is 25 lots of multi-unit by parcel. The street to the southwest is 17%. The street to the south of that is 33%. The street immediately south is 40%, which consists of the closest comparables I mentioned at 1007 and 1005 Arch Street. And south of that, also 40%. In conclusion, the development pattern in this part of the neighborhood shows that our proposal is in line with what exists in the surrounding area now. Additionally, there's a bonus provision agreement that provides a benefit to the city, structured in the form of a payment towards a community infrastructure project, which benefits our community even further. This project helps address the continued demand for housing near Tampa's urban core. As the city continues to grow, providing a range of housing options within established neighborhoods is an important part of supporting that growth. There's an opportunity for us to provide infill units in a responsible way. For these reasons, I respectfully request approval of REZ 2602. I do want to show some alley before we...
Yeah, let's see some alleys.
So in the past few weeks, I was able to take some photos.
Because it seems like, based on my own observation, it seems like this is a drivable alley.
So the issue is, I would say, multifaceted. We start to have natural resources conflicts because we are going to be put in a position where we are removing other people's trees that are either on the property line or encroaching past the property line. And with the presence of branches, brush, trees, and root systems, there really is not a considerate way to do that without having to remove other neighbors' trees that I don't own on my property. And so these are a few examples that I was able to take photos of. I have some more as well on the the east side of the alley. So there's several oaks. This is not on the property, but there's some overhead clearance concerns with a tree that encroaches into the alley. There's a little bit of HVAC equipment that I believe encroaches in the alley. And then there's a, I believe it's a specimen size healthy live oak tree that's encroaching in the alley. So that is the reason for the waiver in this case.
How wide is the alley?
It's platted as 14, but anything can be there in terms of trees and such.
But I mean, the alley's 14 feet though, right?
Platted that way, yes, sir.
I mean, like I say, usually your stuff just flies through. Again, the alley just seems, I mean, it appears drivable to me, as you can see through the shots. I don't think any of these are alley-wide shots. And I hear what you're saying, these are along the edge of that alley, but it seems like a usable, and of course, this is in the overlay district, so that's a really important factor in the overlay district, is us reclaiming the use of these alleys. I mean, the project itself looks really great to me. And by the way, it's funny that you spent so much time on the density and the issue in this, because to me, that's a no-brainer. I mean, I just went right past that because you're right there at Julian B. Lane. I get it, the infill and the creating density there, so that's not even a factor for me. The only factor on this is the alleyway, which, if you look at your plan, if that was flipped where you had alley access and you had a porch on the front, man, this would just be a beautiful project for West Tampa. I mean, you literally do 180 degrees on this house and flip it. It would just fit perfectly into the neighborhood. That's my only discussion. Council, have any other questions for the? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm not opposed to doing an alley-facing garage if it's possible to do a revision between first and second reading. I just, as a thoughtful neighbor developing in my own community, I want to prevent a situation where I'm knocking on a neighbor's door. I'm saying we got to take out the tree.
I get it.
And that's I don't want to become the enemy of the people just for that.
Well, you could blame it on us.
Well,
but so. Staff, I know we recently just had a site plan where we came back with 2 sheets of amendments between first and second reading, and I know this is an unusual, but if this was literally just a flip, how difficult would that be between first and second? On the record, please, yeah.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. They can do that between first and second reading. It would just make it a little bit longer of a second reading so that they would have to show the site plan.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Okay. Did you want to add anything else before I ask for public comment?
yes, sir. I would add one more thing. We have a plan, this exact plan for the alley load garage. Okay. If we think it's that important, we can sub that in. I don't think it's really that complicated just for 2 units, and so we can absolutely consider that.
I hate to be that curmudgeon, but it is the West Tampa overlay, you know. Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, is there anybody else in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Yes. Okay, go ahead. Yep, come up to the podium. You start with your name and you'll have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Delphine Jones. I'm with West Tampa CAC, board member, though I'm not representing them. I'm representing the neighborhood, West Riverfront, vice president. He said his neighborhood and his community, it's been my community for 66 years and a couple other people's community. And we do care about our community. Now, this is not consistent with the overlay, this alley, wanting to put a garage in the front. The other issue we have, he said he had so many emails. Well, he didn't hand you the email of the people, but I have my neighbors here and the people who live there and made that neighborhood what it is. And it's becoming a pattern. That's my problem with it too. We have too much density. We can't even get out our own neighborhood. And this is a pattern. Now, it started off with 1, now I could count about 5 or 6 on another hand. It's just not gonna ever stop. And plus we got the park, we got UT students, and now you wanna, on one parcel, put a single family semi-detached. I haven't had peace in my neighborhood for 25 years. It's always something. We're blocked in. Okay, I stay on LaSalle in 1500 block. Then you get down the street, here's one of these single family semi-detached in the middle. I can't even see the view of downtown anymore. I'm not getting any pleasure or relaxation in my own neighborhood that I lived all my life. Now, some changes are good, but this is just much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item? Come on up, start with your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Lou Sheard, and I live at 1315 West State Street. I live about 3 blocks from the site. But what I wanted to say when he said there was not enough single-family homes in the neighborhood, I've been on my block for about 40 years, and about 4 or 5 new houses are there. These was single-family, nice ranch homes. Now, every house that get knocked down is either 2 families, they put 2 structures on there, or either they build a quadplex or try to build a single detachment. So there are plenty single families in our neighborhood that lots have become more houses than we have seen before. I used to be able to walk out of my house and look from State Street all the way down to Armenia. Now when I turn right, I got hundreds and hundreds of neighbors, the Morin developers right on Cypress. So I don't mind people coming into the neighborhood. But like Daphne said, you know, when you try to come out on Cypress, you're blocked. We put up signs saying do not park from here to there. Some of the signs have been taken down. You know, I'm thinking about people that live in the neighborhood, that live in those apartment complexes. We can't get across Cass sometimes for all the traffic that's coming to go to Walmart or coming back. But we're saying we don't mind changes, but and another thing that was very important, we had a meeting at Julian B. Lane and about the 2-story houses, and it was a 3-story house. It was a city worker. He said the 3-story house slipped in some kind of way through the city. He said slipped in, but since those years have passed, there have been several 3-story homes popping up in our neighborhood on different blocks. So we just want to say something is not right. 3-story home, first it was a 2-story homes put on a single family lot. Now it's 3 stories homes, squeezing in on corners in between. So we're just asking that somebody remember us that's been there 40, 50, 60 years. And we have students, we have elderly people that need the paramedics and the emergency vehicles. So we just asking that someone could look out for us and not just build. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item? Start with your name. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Linda McNair Hernandez, and I've been living in on Nassau Street for 57 years, and it's getting overcrowded. Is my Daphne, her daughter, just is on here. She had a car accident, because it's a lot of traffic coming through there. They're not stopping, and when I go to Walmart, you gotta on Oregon, you gotta stop, and you gotta wait for traffic coming your way because they're parking and it's not enough room. It's like they're building these complexes up, but they don't have enough space for people to park, and you can't drive by. And when you go out of Cypress trying to get over, you can't see. You got to guess your way out. And it's like going to be an accident, but they need to put a 4-way stop if they're going to have that, because those apartments are over there and you can't see when a car is coming. I have problems with that. So I'm against it.
Which intersection are we talking about?
I'm talking about on Oregon, and if you coming from Walmart on Oregon, and if you want to cut across Cypress.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll bring that to Mobility's attention. Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the public wish to speak? Yes, sir. Come on up. Start with your name. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Stanley Sanders. I live on the 1100th block of LaSalle. I just wanted to say I am for the approval of this. I'm a Tampa Bay member for about 30 years. I've lived in this house probably for about 4 years. The general environment of the neighborhood is basically new parents, families like me coming in, older members who've been there for 40, 50, 60 years, and a lot of college students. Building on these lots are pretty expensive as we know, so breaking them down into two does make it a little bit more affordable for the families that are coming in and anybody else who would like to live in the area. I think what the applicant's doing is favorable for the neighborhood. As we know, these houses only last so long. Usually the older they get, they go down two routes: either tear down, they sit vacant. Sometimes the maintenance won't be there, or they have to build something new. That's why I'm in support for this, because this is the time, if we're going to build something new, we're going to bring the density to the neighborhood that we need, that more families like my family will be able to enjoy in the future. And that's what I have to say. Thank you so much, council members.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the public who wishes to speak to this item? Come on in.
I haven't been sworn in yet.
Okay.
Yeah. I do.
Thank you. Start with your name, please.
Carlos Carrion. Good evening, council members. I'm a resident at 33607 area in West Tampa, near 1008 West LaSalle, which is the subject of REZ 2602, requesting a rezoning from RS50 to planned development. I want to take a moment to share my support for this request. As someone who lives in the surrounding area, I've seen how this part of Tampa has continued to grow and attract more interest from people who want to live close to the city. One of the challenges Tampa is facing right now is the need for more housing options in established neighborhoods. Projects like this helps create opportunities for more people to live near parks, jobs, and amenities that make Tampa such a great place to live. With nearby destinations like Julian B. Lane Park, the Riverwalk Extension, and the Future Rome Yards District, this part of the city is becoming an increasingly attractive place for residents such as myself. Allowing thoughtful redevelopment in areas like this helps ensure the neighborhood continues to grow in a balanced and responsible way. As someone who lives nearby and wants to see the area continue to grow and thrive, I believe this proposal will be a positive step forward for the community. For these reasons, I respectfully encourage you to approve REZ 2602. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the public? Okay, public comment is now closed. Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
We have a motion to close. I'm sorry, applicant, you had a rebuttal? I'm sorry.
Yes, please. I do want to mention one thing. I heard that parking congestion and just overall traffic flow was a concern. A hazardous intersection that's at the corner of Oregon and Cypress, I don't have much control over that. I do think it's important to have caution at that intersection. I've personally experienced how cars can whip through there. So if it's possible, I would love to support taking another look at that. I will say though, I made a graphic here. So we just had the PBS Be My Neighbor. It was a week ago. And everything I aligned in red there, they were parking just bumper to bumper across our entire neighborhood. When I did my walk that day, I said, this is just kind of crazy. And that was a week ago. So I think it's worth mentioning that also outside my control, things like that don't happen often, but it is recent memory of super congested parking right in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
That's good. Yeah, I didn't imply that the mobility issues were the developer's problem. That was for highlighting our follow-up questions to mobility about that intersection, as this was brought to our attention. Ms. Pope, you had something to add?
Yes, sir. Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. For the record, I just wanted to make sure that we confirm that the applicant is okay with improving the alley from North Delaware to the parcel should he use the alleyway for entryway to the project.
Can you come back up to the microphone, Mr. James?
Sorry, so the question is, am I agreeing to that? So, paving the alley to the nearest right of way, which is to the west?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I agree to that.
Okay, very good, okay.
And then, I'm sorry, go ahead. An additional item would be, for the second reading, the applicant would need additional weeks in order to revise the site plan. So would there be another second reading that would be after April 2nd that he would be able to do that?
Clerk, can you look at that for us?
The 16th of April, is that a sufficient amount of time?
We can spread it in 3 days, but I don't know what your timeline looks like.
What's that? Okay.
I'm looking at the calendar, and your next regular session after the 2nd is the 16th of April. Would that give him enough time to be able to do that?
Yes, sir.
There's room for a second reading for that day, I would believe.
Oh, yeah, let's go for that. Is that good?
Yes,
Everybody, all thumbs up? Yep, okay. April 16th will be the 2nd, okay. So if we read this, if it passes, that will be that, okay. Can I re-entertain that motion to close? Motion to close for Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Guerrero. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Councilman Maniscalco, would you like to read item number 6?
Including the revisions and everything?
Yes.
I'll read it and we'll see where it goes. I have ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1008 West LaSalle Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential single family, to PD plan development, residential single family semi-detached, providing an effective date, and with the revisions as stated on the record per the discussion a few minutes ago between first and second reading. Second reading can come in that mid-April regular session
The
date.
clerk will read that. Okay, very good. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from? Second from Councilwoman Young. Roll call, please.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Hurtek,
Yes.
Young, Vieira, Carlson, Miranda,
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried with Carlson voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 16th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item number 7.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7 is REZ 2603, request to rezone 1307 West LaSalle Street from RS50 to PED for residential single-family semi-detached. I'll turn it over to the Planning Commission staff.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the West Riverfront neighborhood, and the West Tampa Urban Village. It is also within Evacuation Zone C. The subject site is outlined in purple. This site is 2 blocks west of the previous case and just south of I-275. This portion of West LaSalle Street is primarily developed with single-family homes with some 2-family and institutional uses nearby, including the First Baptist Church of West Tampa, which is right here. This map shows the site designated residential 20. North of I-275 are the CC35, R35, and NMU 35 designations. The request is rezoned from RS50 to PD to allow 4 single-family semi-detached dwelling units on a vacant site. The proposal is consistent with the density anticipated under the R20 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed units orient front doors towards West LaSalle Street with pedestrian connections to the sidewalk. Overall, the proposal supports compatible infill within the West Tampa Urban Village and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Ms. Pope?
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. This is right down the road from where we just were. Here's the subject site outlined in red on the north side of West LaSalle. And this is Oregon, this is Rome, and then North Boulevard is over here, 275. It's there. The subject site is surrounded by RS50 single-family detached uses. There are some recent rezonings in the area, which you can see along here. Some of them are single-family detached and some of them are semi-detached. Next, we'll show the site plan provided by the applicant. Here is West LaSalle. The applicant is proposing 2 semi-detached units with frontage along West LaSalle, which is here. There's a 1-car garage and 1 parking space for each unit. Entry is from West LaSalle. Each unit is proposed to be 2 stories. Here are the elevations provided by the applicant. The subject site is in the West Tampa overlay and has a future land use of R20, which allows for 3 units by right. Given the size of this property, the applicant is proposing construction of 4 units and has entered into a bonus agreement for this additional unit. There are 2 waivers requested. One waiver is to request to allow for vehicular access to the lot from the front rather than the alley. And the second waiver is a request to reduce building separation from 15 feet to 10 foot 8 inches. Next, I'll show some photos of the subject site and the surrounding area. Here's the subject site. As you can see, the existing homes on site were recently demolished. This is east of the site looking towards North Willow. This is southwest of the site on West LaSalle. West of the site. This is west more towards Oregon. And then this is east of the site. Development coordination and compliance staff review the application and find the request to be consistent with the land development code. Should city council approve the application and waivers requested, the modification to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second readings. I'm available for any questions.
I guess you're probably anticipating what my next question is going to be. Transportation.
Yes, sir. So for the
alley.
alley, would you like to ask the applicant?
Yes, sir. You come up. Do you want to do it, or do you want our staff to come up and talk about the transportation? You want to come talk about the alley?
It being usable.
Yeah, let's get staff's perspective, then we'll get applicants.
Jonathan Scott, Transportation. Once again, this alley it's open, but it's not used.
Isn't there already loading from the back from some of the adjacent properties that already have rear-facing garages on this alley?
I didn't see any that had that.
I think there is based on my observation on
Okay.
Google Maps, but yeah.
It's not paved either, but this one is, you could drive on it, it's
Yeah,
drivable.
I just saw there's already some rear loading garages on the alley, I think in my research, I think to the east of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe, I don't know. We'll talk to the applicant.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, applicant, with any other questions for Stephanie? Hearing none, okay, applicant.
Good evening, council members. James Lascara. I'm the applicant and owner of 1307 West LaSalle Street, which we are proposing for 4 units of single-family semi-detached. Is it good if we start with your question, sir? You had a question about where garages are facing the alley.
Yeah, I think, because I based on what I believe in my research looking, this said there were rear loading garages on this alley already somewhere on that lot, on that block.
I made a diagram of in short, there are no properties on this block that are used in the alley. I made a diagram. It's all red, but these are the properties that are used in the alley. There are none.
Yeah, I think I saw on a Google map, I think I saw cars parked in the back, but, okay.
So interestingly enough, I did talk to Delphine before this hearing this evening, and I appreciated her comments. We do have a parking challenge And the reason why is because the lots marked in red actually have 0 on-site parking. So the subject is marked in green, but there's 0 on-site parking on the lots here. These 4, which are more narrow homes. There's a parcel of vacant land, and then the one on the end does not have any on-site parking designated. And so you'll actually see this on the overhead. That leads to people parking out in the front because there's just no on-site parking.
Maybe that's why they were parked in the back too.
Perhaps.
When I saw it in your Google overhead, something, Google Maps. Yeah.
So the staff report found that we were consistent in every department, and the property was historically 4 units. We were intending to keep it 4 units. So in 2022, the property was boarded up and unoccupied. By 2025, it accumulated an array of an abundance of code violations for overgrowth and disrepair. And then late last year, we had the opportunity to get in touch with the owner. In that process, we acquired the property, cured the code violations through demolition, and purchased it from the former owner. Since moving to this neighborhood, that's kind of how it looked, and so I think this is a thoughtful addition to the direction that the neighborhood is growing. Community support has been strong from people within a block of the proposal that I've spoken with. The one thing I want to mention is I believe there's only one waiver that we're requesting, which is the alley waiver. I don't believe there's a waiver required when we have 10 feet of separation on the site plan when we intend to sell the units fee simple. So there might be a point of clarification here in a second. I'm open to a discussion about the alley. I think I have some additional alley comments and photos from the site I will show. It's similar. The biggest concern is we'll be encroaching into this protective root zone of this oak that's to the west. I'll give it a second so we can look at that. There's an oak in the backyard of the property that's furthest to the west.
That's not in the alley, that's just in the backyard, right? Yeah.
Correct, it's adjacent to the alley. It is not blocking the alley.
Okay, gotcha.
And then to the east, we got out and measured, and there's some concerns about the trees that are growing and encroaching on the alley. It's a 14-foot wide platted alley, but the plat doesn't care about where the trees grow. So I'll leave that for a second if there are any questions.
So I mean, because based on what I saw, there seems to be like a lot of tower treads. Is that FDOT using that alley to access the interstate, or because there's a lot of tower treads in there? Who do you think is using that?
Sorry, you said
that
tire
alley
track?
seems to be like treaded and tapped down. The vegetation's tapped down. Like the alley's being used by somebody. Is it being used by the FDOT, or what do you think? Have you been out there to see that?
I've never seen a vehicle out there since
Okay.
when I've been out there, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. What struggles would you have to do the backloading alleys on this? What are your thoughts on that as far as a developer?
Of the paving to the nearest right of way?
Well, paving and just your development plan itself, what challenges would you have if you did a backloading alley?
I think I'm concerned with 2 things. I'm concerned that it starts to become a bother for someone who occupies the structure, and then they end up parking in the front anyway, and that could potentially make the problem just worse that we're trying to avoid to start with by putting parking in the rear. And then in terms of developing the site, just the coordination with neighbors when there's odd tree things. Is the tree on their lot, or is it in the alley, or somewhere in between, and how do we really navigate that the right way to remove trees when needed, when it's not a site that I own?
All right. Okay.
I've never done that, so I would have to figure it out.
Okay. Very good. Anything else?
No, sir. It's kind of the same reasons mentioned before. Respectfully request approval of REZ 2603.
Okay, thanks. Council, have questions? Councilwoman Hurtek, CCTV, can you bring up Hurtek? Thank you. Councilwoman Hurtek, do you have any questions on this one? No.
No.
Do you have any concerns about the alley access on this? Or?
I do, but I mean, this seems to be the perfect place for alley access because it backs up to the interstate. So yeah, I tend to agree with you on this.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I should have mentioned this. I'm willing to do the same thing. It's not my, it wouldn't be my first preference, but we're willing to do the same thing as the other site, if that's an option.
Yeah.
If I may, let me just read this on the alley. This is what the planning commission said anyway. I'm just looking at it. It's on page 6 of the planning commission report. However, in the correspondence with City Tampa Transportation Department unloaded on Salle on January 13, 2026, staff indicated that while the adjacent alley is open, it is unpaved and transportation apparently no evidence of regular vehicle use. Based on the existing conditions, the Transportation Department recommends the city support for the applicant's request for a waiver for the alley. And this is not me. I believe I have the right one here, number 7, right? And on the public portion of LaSalle Street between North Will and North Oregon, excluding the subject site, is developed an existing density of 12.5 dwelling units per acre based on 7 sample sites. Approximately 62.5% of the density anticipated under residential 20 designation. It is proved the PD would allow for potential development of 4 dwelling units in the density of 18.18 units per acre. The proposed development reflects an existing development pattern of average density in the portion of the South Street. Planning Commission staff have found that the proposed rezoning would allow for development pattern envisioned in the comprehensive plan. The request would provide opportunities for housing in slightly higher density than the surrounding area, which is supported by Plan Policy 9.7.1. And I've never met or talked to this gentleman in my life.
No, I mean, I think,
No,
I don't
I'm just
think,
saying that.
yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees.
No, I know that.
Yeah, if it's not the density, and I think that's.
why we're doing something like this.
And I think that's really important for the neighbors that were talking about the last issue, that we already have a comprehensive plan that anticipates this density, so that's really kind of not even under discussion because they're already allowed density under a comprehensive plan in this area, and it's where we're directing growth as a plan that's been established for years. So that's one of the things it's ironic, I'm not as strongly feeling about this alley as I was about the other one, but do you already have plans drawn up for this, for a alley facing fourplex here?
We have both versions. So we have a 50 by 95 2-unit site that faces the street with a single car garage.
Yeah.
And then we have another version that faces the alley.
Because of course, we love the street facing porches, West Tampa overlay district, I mean, that's kind of the direction we want to go. So if you're able to accomplish that, I think ideally that is the better development in this location than trying to use that, again, having that forward facing, and we're all big fan of your projects. You say normally the stuff just breezes right through. I think what you try to do is really good in this neighborhood. Yeah, I would much prefer that. I mean, I'm only one of 7, but that's what I would do. Councilman Young, you want to get to the microphone?
No, I would just say I would agree. And I was looking when you showed the drawings with having the porch in the front, it just seems to kind of fit the character of the neighborhood. So if that's possible, that we can make that change, I would like to see that.
I have no problem taking on board some changes, just so I understand which change you're asking for specifically. The garage in the rear?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it possible to show the screen, just so that is a render of how it would look with the garage in the front? No issue with changing the rear, but just so you know how it could look.
I mean, obviously pretty, but very suburban,
right,
as opposed to urban, and West Tampa. And then that doesn't, like, you look at that, you wouldn't cry out, you'd cry out Brandon, you wouldn't cry out West Tampa, I mean, it's a very pretty house. I mean, obviously beautiful design, but we're looking for that for the West Tampa overlay district. We're looking for that porch, get neighbors out in the front yard, having the parking location in the back. I think that'd be great. But, okay. Anybody else? Anything else you want to share?
Nothing.
Sorry, I think we beat that dead horse. Anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? Yes. Okay.
Okay, Delphine Jones, again, 1518 West LaSalle Street, West Riverfront Crime Watch Group. I'm in agreement with the parking in the back because that's the overlay standards. And she mentioned something about 3 units instead of 4, if I heard right. Did it? I know it's 4 units, but I thought somewhere there you said it could be 3 units instead of 4.
We'll address that when you're finished with that question.
Okay. So that would be good, because that lot, I lived there all my life, that lot's not that big. I'm not really in agreement with it that much, because like I said, I think it's too much density. And we can't get out of our neighborhood. My daughter just had an accident and someone rammed her into the house. Those are the problems we keep having. So I'm just not happy in my neighborhood because it hasn't been a neighborhood for me for 25 years.
Ms. Pope, would you like to address the bonus density? She's going to answer your question.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. So with their future land use of R20, they're allowed 3 units by right, and they have provided, agreed to a bonus provision which allows them that extra unit, which allows for 4 units in total.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else in the public wishes to speak? Come on up, start with your name, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Linda McNair Hernandez, and I am against it because even though they have garages, they have families that's gonna come and be parking everywhere. So even though they have garages, that don't mean nothing to me because when there's so much traffic and if they have events, we still won't be able to get by. So that's my concern.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, anybody else?
Hello, Councilman again. My name is Stanley. I live on the 1100th block, which is 1 block east of the property. I wanted to share my support for several years at the property. This property at 1307 has been vacant without proper maintenance, becoming an eyesore for those of us who live on the street. Seeing someone step in with the intention to improve and redevelop the property is something a lot of us residents would like to welcome. I'm encouraging this site previously. It was 4 units. Again, he's asking for 4 units. I would say on the parking issue, I personally like parking in the front. I know a lot of the neighbors and houses on the street also have front parking. If they don't, what usually happens is they park on the street or on the grass itself. I think that putting the garages front facing just makes it easy. I think that we do want to encourage people to use the alleyways, but I think what usually happens is they just don't use it and they just kind of park, where it's most convenient. Usually what's most convenient is right on the front or, on the grass. So I think given that option to put it there in front just makes it really easy for the residents, especially those who are there. I know the neighboring property, they do have the driveways in the front, and as stated before, on the west side, they do not. They have no parking at all, so they all just park on the street anyways. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak to this item? Start with your name, please.
That's good. Lou Sheard again, 1315 West State Street. I would just like to say I was wondering why it couldn't be 2 family homes instead of 4, because that's going to only add more traffic and more density to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item?
Carlos Carrion. Good evening, council members. I live in the same zip code as the property located at 1307 West LaSalle Street, which is the subject of the REC 2603 requesting a rezoning from RS50 to planned development. I want to come tonight to share my support for this request. Similar to the previous item, this proposal reflects the type of thoughtful investment that helps neighborhoods continue to improve as the city grows. This part of Tampa has a unique position with major amenities and developments nearby. Projects like this help ensure the properties keep pace with the positive momentum happening around them. Responsible redevelopment can bring new residents and activity that helps support community growth and deliver units that our city needs. As someone who lives in the area and wants to see the neighborhood continue in a positive direction, I believe this project is a positive step forward, the growth and taking place in the West Riverfront neighborhood. For these reasons, I respectfully encourage you to approve RZ 2603.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item? Hearing none. Applicant?
James Lascara, applicant. I just want to reaffirm a few things. So it's 4 units before, it's 4 units after. This property was an eyesore to the neighborhood for 4+ years, and it was not viable to restore. It was too far gone. The roof was caving in. No issue with parking in the rear. On public record, I want to state I have no issue with parking in the rear and improving the alley to the right of way, which is Willow, to the east. And then the one thing I did want to mention is the bonus provision that I'm entering into the agreement with the city to get the 4th unit carries multiple tens of thousands of dollars in infrastructure improvements for the city as a component of doing this project. That concludes my rebuttal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Boat?
So move.
Hold on 1 second. Oh,
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. I did want to state on the record that as of right now, there is supposed to only be one waiver, and that is the waiver to request to allow for vehicular access to the lot from the front rather than from the alley. However, if the applicant does change the plan and allow alley access and improvement to the nearest right-of-way to the alley and the addition of the porches on the front, that would eliminate that waiver as well. So there would be no
There'd be no
waivers to
waivers.
this
Okay.
staffing.
okay, that's good. That's very good. Can I get a motion to close? Okay, motion to close, Councilman Maniscalco, second for Councilman Miranda. Well, actually, I wish we need to get y'all to conform that.
Pardon?
Was that sufficient with the applicant?
We have to close.
Yeah, no, we're debating here. Hold on a second. I had to ask them. Was that sufficient with the applicants agreeing to change the design between 1st and 2nd, and with the understanding this will come back on the 16th? Are we good on all that, everybody?
Will this be the same, this will be the same date, the extra time that's needed, and make that the April 16th? Yes, sir, that is correct.
James, you're good with that as well?
Yes, sir. I'm good with that.
Okay, so very good. Okay. So I have a motion to close from Councilman, I believe it's Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, Councilman Miranda, would you please read item number 7?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 7, REZ 26-03. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 1307 West LaSalle Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning districts classification RS50 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family semi-detached, providing an effective date.
With the agreed to changes
With the agreements
between 1st and
agreed both
2nd? Okay, very good.
The applicant and the city officials.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Hurtek,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Vieira, Carlson, Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried with Carlson voting no. And just to clarify, so for this one, he's going to do the 16th
April
as well?
16th as well,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 16th, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 8 is RZ 2606. This is a request to rezone 4420 West Carmen Street from RS50 to planned development for residential single-family attached uses. I'll turn it over now to Planning Commission staff.
Thank you.
Quinn Steele, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the West Shore Planning District, the West Shore Palms neighborhood, and Evacuation Zone A. The subject site is outlined in purple. I-275 is directly north, and the West Shore Boulevard is 2 blocks west near West Shore Plaza. The surrounding area includes a mix of single-family homes, duplexes, townhomes, and multifamily development. This map shows the site designated residential 20, and then north of I-275 is the regional mixed-use 100 designation. The request is rezoned from RS50 to PD to allow 4 single-family attached dwelling units on a site currently developed with 1 single-family home. The proposal is consistent with the density anticipated under the R20 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The PD proposes front door orientation towards West Carmen Street with sidewalk connections to the right-of-way. Overall, the proposal supports compatible infill and better utilization of the land and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Yes, sir. Boom. It's not a good hearing unless somebody throws papers.
Okay. Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site. Subject site is outlined in red. It's located on the south side of West Carmen Street. The subject block is located east of North Hesperide Street and west of North Manhattan Avenue. Looking at the overall aerial, I-275 is located to the north. To the east and south, we have single-family detached dwellings zoned RS50. To the west of the subject site, we have a single-family detached dwelling zoned RM18. It should also be noted that southwest of the subject site, we do have some parcels zoned PD on both the north side of West Gray Street and on the south side of West Gray Street. Those sites have been developed with single-family attached dwelling units. Also on the south side of West Gray Street, further south from the subject site, we have additional single-family attached dwellings. That parcel is zoned PD. And then southeast of the subject site, we do have RM18 zoning. Those lots have been improved with single-family semi-detached dwelling units. And further east, we do have a PD parcel that has been developed with single-family attached dwelling units. We do have a site plan provided by the applicant. The subject site is approximately 10,393 square feet in area. The applicant is proposing the construction of one structure containing 4 single-family attached dwelling units. Each unit would provide a 2-car garage. The front doors for units 2 through 4 face the east property line, whereas Unit 1, the front doors are oriented to West Carmen Street. There is also a guest parking spot located on the south side of the property. Given the size of the site, a maximum of 4 dwelling units is allowed by right. Next, we do have elevations to show. Showing elevations in all directions. Shows a 3-story structure with a maximum height of 40 feet. There are 2 waivers with this application this evening. The first is to section 27-282. This is a request to allow front doors of units 2, 3, and 4 to face the side lot line or drive aisle rather than an internal courtyard or right-of-way. The second waiver is to section 27-284. This is a request to reduce the required 5-foot use-to-use buffer to be 4 feet along the west property line and 3 feet along the south property line. Next, we have photos of the subject site and surrounding parcels. The first is the subject site itself. Looking north, we can see 275. South of the subject site, this would be along Gray Street. East of the subject site and west of the subject site. Development Coordination and Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We do find the request consistent with the Land Development Code. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve the application, modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Applicant?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ari Alejo, representing 4420 West Carmen Street, REZ 2606. I'm a first-generation American, born and raised in Tampa, Florida. My family has been in construction for 30 years and here locally. I've firsthand seen the city evolve, growing up near uptown Tampa. And I want to use my skills we built over that time to help it grow. This project is an opportunity for me to contribute to the neighborhoods we know and love. We are requesting a rezoning that the city staff has reviewed and found consistent with the applicable land development regulations and comprehensive plan. This is an infill site that effectively uses city infrastructure instead of pushing further urban sprawl. It adds the missing middle ownership units in a location where the comprehensive plan already anticipates more than just detached homes, which is exactly where the direction of city is moving with the current land development code update. I'm excited by the city's visionary West Shore redevelopment plaza, and this project delivers much needed housing within walking distance, strengthening that walkable, vibrant future just blocks away. It is 0.4 miles away. For these reasons, we respectfully ask for you to approve REZ 2606 on first reading, subject to the revisions sheet conditions between first and second readings. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? CTTV, can you get Councilwoman Hurtak up on my monitor, please?
No questions.
No questions, okay. Hearing none. I hear a lot of staff discussion. Somebody want to read us in?
We just had a discrepancy on names listed on the agent authorization form. So if we can get him added, the gentleman added between first and second reading to the record, then we don't have any
Is that
issues.
appropriate?
Susan Johnson, Legal Department. I mean, normally we require the person speaking on behalf to be authorized to speak at the hearing. So I don't know if there are going to be council discussions or any changes made, but we'd want to make sure that somebody's authorized to agree to those before they go forward.
So if we don't have any changes, then it won't be a problem. Okay. Well, why don't we trudge forward and see where this goes? Okay. Are we? Okay, go ahead.
Just for the record.
Say your name again, please.
Ari Alejo. The actual owner of the record is my dad of the property. The owner of the record is my dad.
Okay,
Alejo.
gotcha. Understand.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? James, go ahead.
Evening, Council. James Lascara. We've done several projects in this area. I like the walkability of West Shore Plaza redevelopment. I think it's thoughtful infill in an area where Tampa could benefit from, and I support, encourage you to approve this request.
Okay, thank you. You had something else?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Speaking amongst staff, it's our opinion that we should look for a continuance to address this issue with the agent authorization form before continuing forward. That would be our request, but we leave it up to your.
Is Mr. Shelby and then Ms. Susan Johnson-Velez. You want to defer to Susan Johnson-Velez?
Well, I would, and I would suspect she would say the same thing I would be that is your process, that you don't rely on competent substantial evidence or sworn testimony of somebody who is supposed to be representing the applicant without that authorization.
Susan Johnson, that's correct. Because we don't know if the owner, if he's an authorized
to present this
representative.
case.
There are two other people listed, but neither one of them is this gentleman.
So if I'm hearing both of you correctly, our hands are tied. So the suggestion to cure this issue is to continue this item.
And council, if I could just follow up with that, I understand council's desire sometimes to want to accommodate, but when we're dealing with private property rights, we have to go by the book.
I understand.
That's just it.
Councilman Carlson.
I have a question.
Councilman Carlson, then Councilwoman Hurtak.
Just a quick question, sorry, I don't have it in the application in front of me, but is the owner on the application, or is the representative on the application?
The owner signed the affidavit to authorize agent authorizing two different individuals, neither of whom are here this evening.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
My question is about scheduling. I mean, is there a way we could just schedule this to the next meeting? I mean, or does this have to be renoticed?
Oh, no, we're talking about continuation.
It's a continuance.
No, I'm sorry. That's what I meant, though.
I don't believe this would have to be
Oh, that's right. We
renoticed.
don't have a March evening or a second March evening meeting. I forgot about that. Never mind. But is there
Well, it
room
would
on
be a continuation of a
the
first
first
reading.
April one?
It would be a continuation of a first reading. Yes, sir.
For the record, Christopher DeMonts, Development Coordination, we do have space on the April 9th agenda, so we could continue to that hearing.
Let's do
Okay.
that. Motion to continue this item, which is RZ 26-06 to the April 9th agenda.
I heard
Date,
something.
time and place as well.
315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. Do you want to put it at the 10 o'clock public hearing, 10:30?
What time is that? April 9th?
It'll be the evening.
The evening.
Oh,
Evening,
evening, I'm
evening,
sorry,
yes.
so evening,
April, that's the first
5:01 PM. Can we put it first on the agenda?
If that's council's pleasure.
Are you good with that?
I'm fine with that, yes.
All right, so 5:01 PM, April 9th, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Okay, and you understand everything that just happened? You're good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So I have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Carlson to continue this item as stated April 9th. Do I have to have a roll call?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Young, Vieira, Carlson, Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes,
Okay, motion carried unanimously.
thank you. Our last item on the agenda this evening, item number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonts, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 9 is REZ 2632. This is a request to rezone 110 South Boulevard from planned development, which currently allows for residential multiple family and strip center retail, including bank drive-in uses, to planned development for residential multiple family and parking off-street commercial uses. I will allow Planning Commission to jump in and present.
Thank you.
Gwen Steele, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Hyde Park Spanish Town Creek neighborhood, and the Hyde Park National Historic District. It's also within Evacuation Zone B. The subject site is outlined in purple. The surrounding area contains a mix of multifamily, commercial, and institutional uses. The site is south of Kennedy Boulevard, 1 block south of the University of Tampa, and directly north of the Selman Expressway. Downtown Tampa is about a half a mile east. This map shows the site designated residential mixed-use 100, regional mixed-use 100, which supports high-intensity residential, office, and mixed-use development. The site is also located within the CBD periphery bonus area, where projects may increase density and intensity up to 100% above the base maximum, allowing up to a 7.0 FAR on this site. The request is to amend an existing PD to allow a 215,000 square foot multifamily building. The applicant is utilizing the CBD periphery bonus and has entered into an agreement with the city to achieve a 5.2 FAR. Planning Commission staff reviewed the proposal and found it compatible with the surrounding development pattern. The PD proposes an 11-story residential building oriented towards South Boulevard with sidewalks and pedestrian connections along all adjacent streets. Between first and second reading, Planning Commission staff requests that the applicant correct the surrounding future land use designations on the map to Regional Mixed Use 100, as they are currently shown as RMU 35. Overall, the request would provide redevelopment of an underutilized site in a mixed-use corridor near transit, employment centers, and the CBD, and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Good job, thank you. Next.
Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonts, Development Coordination. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site. Subject site is outlined in red. It is located at the northeast corner of West Cleveland Street and South Boulevard. The subject site also has street frontage along South Fielding Avenue. The subject property is bounded to the north by a residential multiple family development, a vacant lot zone plan development that is approved for 6 multifamily units. To the east, it's approved is a PD project. There's a 9-story parking structure there. South of the subject site, we have the Selman Expressway, and west of the subject site, we have multiple family structure as well as business and professional office uses. Having a look here at the proposed site plan, the subject site totals 41,548 square feet with approximately 220 feet of street frontage along South Boulevard, 118 feet of street frontage along West Cleveland Street, and 132 feet of street frontage along South Fielding. Through the requested plan development and rezoning, the applicant is proposing the redevelopment of the site, which currently is improved with a 1-story structure previously used for bank uses. They are proposing an 11-story residential multiple family structure with 239 units, as well as parking off-street commercial use to provide on-site parking to the law office building that is located just to the south of the subject site. The site provides ingress-egress along Cleveland Street, as well as ingress and egress along South Fielding. The main entrance to the subject site is along South Boulevard. There are ancillary entrances provided along the east side of the property. There is solid waste location located along the north property line. There's also a total of 41 parking spaces provided on site, as well as 54 indoor bike spaces. The site does require 418 spaces. There is a waiver that I will reference in this presentation that the applicant has requested. The applicant's also requesting through this application a bonus provision agreement to develop the subject site at a floor area ratio of 5.2. The associated bonus agreement is presented concurrently with this application. Under their future land use designation, they are allowed a 3.5 FAR by right. Next, we have elevations. This is the north elevation. Next, we have south elevation. East elevation. And lastly, we have the west elevation. The maximum height proposed of this building is 162 feet. There are 7 waivers requested with this PD rezoning application, and I'll be happy to go into those. The first waiver is to section 27-284. This is to remove one hazardous grand tree, tree number 49, which is a 40-inch live oak rated C5 in the arborist report. This is actually a waiver that was approved with the existing PD zoning on site, so it's the only waiver they're carrying forward from the previous approval for the site. Second waiver is to section 27-283. This is to allow a 12-foot by 39-foot loading space in lieu of 2 12-foot by 60-foot spaces. Third waiver is to section 27-284. This is a request to reduce the required 15-foot use landscape buffer and 6-foot tall masonry wall to be a 0-foot landscape buffer and 6-foot composite or aluminum semi-privacy fence to the east and south, abutting a specific folio number 194-092.0000. The fourth waiver is to section 27-284, which is a request to reduce the required 30% multiple family green space area to 0%, subject to landscape and lieu fees at the time of permitting. Waiver 5 is to section 27-283. This is to reduce the required parking from 418 spaces to 41. This would be a 90% reduction. Waiver 6 has 3 parts to it. Part A is a request to reduce the required 20% VUA green space to 14%, subject to landscape in lieu fees at the time of permitting. Part B would be to request to reduce the minimum parking island width from 13 feet to 0 feet. Part C would be a request to reduce the required 8-foot VUA landscape buffer abutting Fielding Avenue to 5 feet and 6 feet abutting Cleveland Street. And the last waiver, waiver 7, is to section 27-283. This is to reduce the required number of loading berths from 2 to 1. Next, we do have photos of the subject site. This is the view of the subject site from Cleveland. A view of the subject site from Boulevard. And a view of the subject site from Fielding. This is a vacant lot to the immediate north. This parcel is zone PD. This is approved for 6 multiple family dwelling units. Also north of the subject site, we have a multiple family development. Looking south, you can see Selma Expressway in the distance. Both east and south of the subject site, we do have the law firm at the corner of Cleveland and Fielding. East of the site, we have a 9-story parking structure. Looking west, we have multiple family structure, as well as business professional offices. And this is a closer view of those business and professional offices. Development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application. We do find the request inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Should be the pleasure of City Council to approve this application. Further modifications to the site plan must be completed between first and second reading of the ordinance as stated on the revision sheet, and these revisions will not resolve issues of transportation's inconsistent finding. I believe we also passed out, Jonathan, did we pass those out yet? My apologies, I meant to note this earlier. We made some very minor changes to the waivers related to natural resources. I did read those waivers into the record as part of my presentation, and so we updated both the revision sheet and we made some corrections to the staff report. So I just wanted to put that out there. My apologies for not mentioning those earlier. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'll give you a few moments since we just did pass out those changes.
Can you highlight what the changes were?
There were changes to the, we did some fine tuning on the natural resources revisions. We also made a very minor change to page number 3 where we talked about existing uses. We previously listed business and professional office uses and bank uses, and we just cut that down to just reference bank uses as the previous use on the site.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Applicant?
Good evening, Council. My name is Tyler Hudson. My address is 400 North Ashley Drive. We're going to try to move things along. As you can see, I brought some friends with me. It is an honor to be here on behalf of the University of Tampa, the property owner now, the property owner that will remain, along with RISE, their development partner. RISE is one of the leading student housing developers in the country. This property is going to be owned by the University of Tampa for some time and operated as a student housing facility, which Scott will touch on in a moment. I'm not going to do full-blown introductions. Our project team is here, our usual phalanx of experts. Stan Tech is our civil engineer. Niles Bolton Associates is our architect. They're one of the leading student housing architects in the country. And of course, as with any project that I am involved with, Ricky Paterica with Dark Moss is our arborist. I think it's helpful to set the table a little bit. While this is a somewhat blank piece of land, it's not really blank from an entitlement perspective. I think some of you may remember back in 2022, we were here for a PD rezoning for a multifamily building that was intended to be targeted towards the student population, but that was a private market rate multifamily development. It was not pursued in coordination with the university. You can see here what that looked like. It was going to be 23 stories, about a 6.7 FARs. They're really kind of near the filling up the potential density cup, as we'll talk about in a little bit. We're proposing a reduced plan in accordance with what the university's needs are. Scott is going to touch on that. I will say, like most multifamily PDs of the vintage 2022, this was never built for a variety of reasons. One of which was a very difficult project to capitalize. Scott, if he desires to, can talk a little bit about how that will work for this site. But I do want to make very clear that unlike the last proposal, this is being pursued by the University of Tampa for the University of Tampa. And so with that, Scott Gosen with the University of Tampa is going to talk a little bit about why this project, as it's currently entitled, does not work, and why we are here seeking a new PD entitlement.
Good evening, Scott.
Good evening. Scott Gosen, 4514 West Watrous Avenue. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Design, Construction, and Facilities with the University of Tampa. Thank you for having us here today. I want to kind of get into the why and the how that we're doing this project. Unfortunately, the private market refuses to build affordable student housing for our students. So because of that, it's kind of forced the university to stay in this market. So really what our goal here is to provide affordable housing for our students. When our students live on campus, they pay, depending on the type of the unit, between $800 and $1,200 per bed per month on a 9-month lease. When we can't provide housing and they go to the private student housing market adjacent to our campus, they're paying $1,600 per month per bed on a 12-month lease. So what that means to our students is, if you take the mean of our rates, that's about a 213% increase in their costs. And our costs include things like utilities, parking, all that other stuff. So as you can imagine, it's the #1 source of complaints we get back from our parents when we can't accommodate their needs. We talked about some of the waivers that we're requesting on here. I think one thing which I want to stress here today is, I think we need to look at this as a comprehensive project overall with the university. This is not a standalone project to us, even though that's how it's being read here today. So on campus currently, we have 5,122 parking spaces on campus. Based on our last incremental submittal, which was REZ 1917, we currently have a parking requirement of about 4,400 parking spaces on campus. So that gives us an excess of about 722 spaces on campus. I'd also like to point out that this parcel is within a very short walking distance of campus, so our plan, just like we do for all of our buildings, is we park institutionally. We do not park by individual buildings, so that would be consistent with every other student housing building we have on campus. The building itself, we will be assigning freshmores and sophomores to this building. For those of you that were on City Council, when I objected to this project, I went into this at length, but freshmen, per our policies, are not allowed to bring a car to campus. They're not even given a parking permit. So the majority of the kids that live inside this building will not even be allowed to bring a car to campus or park on campus. The sophomores that are assigned to this building, they will park in the Rick Thomas parking garage, which is about, about 1 block? I don't know the exact feet distance, but extremely close. Same thing with green space. Once again, we got to look at this institutionally and campus-wide. I think Natural Resources would agree. I've heard this comment before, but we consider ourselves kind of the green standard in the city of Tampa when it comes to our tree canopy and our green space on campus. Every student that lives in this building will have access to our abundant amount of green space on campus. And it's also worth noted that we built a really large community space up on the 2nd floor for all these students too, which has landscaping and outdoor community space. And I think it's important to remember, what is the purpose of green space? It's for storm drainage, and it's also for amenity space, and I think we've handled both of those issues with the design of this project. I know some city council members were disappointed that we were reducing the FAR on this project. I think one thing which I'd like to point out on that is, the building that we're building is 11 stories, which is very consistent with the other buildings we have on campus. We really wanted this to kind of be brought into the general fabric of the campus, which the architecture does a good job of that as well. And the one thing that we really found is, when you go vertical, you create smaller floor plates, which really make it difficult for students to find their community when they live in those types of projects, which is why we typically like larger footprint, lower building, which helps create a higher use of our community spaces inside the building. So with that, I'll hand it off to our team. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
My name is Chris Fortner, Niles Bolton Associates. Let's see, just picking up.
Could you guys turn?
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll just summarize a little bit about the project. Scott stole a lot of my thunder, but I'll provide some additional support there. Again, just to orient you all a little bit further. Again, 11-story building, 238 units, 833 student beds here. Again, oriented along South Boulevard. You know, we have some essential ground floor uses. We're obviously highlighting the main entry. There's the lobby, the lounge. We have a 2,000 square foot grab and go dining component associated with the building. Then housing offices, staff offices, essential program in terms of like utilities, water room, fire command center, and operational offices and things like that. And bike parking is some of the things we have on the ground floor. Scott had mentioned the 2,400 square foot amenity terrace on the second level. You know, we have vehicular access to Fielding and West Cleveland, and then we are showing the 41 parking spaces there, and about 33, we call them like essential parking spaces that would be for staff that live in the building and staff that are operating the building. And then there's some shared spaces through a private agreement for the parcel adjacent. And then we have the improved streetscape along particularly South Boulevard, where we're adding that street lighting, pedestrian lighting that doesn't exist today. We do not show separate bike parking in our PD plan outside the bike room, but we plan to add some bike parking along South Boulevard to increase our bike parking a little bit further outside of the storage room. And we currently have type 1 and type 2 trees around the perimeter of the property. Just a project comparison between the previous project that Scott mentioned, just some of the differences, like we mentioned, 23 stories versus 11 stories. We have about the same amount of curb cuts. The previous project had a parking deck. We have surface parking here, but spatially, the use on the site is about the same in terms of the site area used for each. I think one of the other big differences Scott mentioned, University of Tampa was opposed. This is sort of a market rate condition. The previous project was for market rate, housing, multifamily. This project here is in full support from the University of Tampa, and I would say designed in coordination with the University of Tampa. We've had numerous meetings going through the design process with the University of Tampa staff to refine this project. Moving forward, again, I think it was referenced the previous project waivers that was listed. So this is just a quick comparison of the previous waivers versus the ones that we are requesting now. There's one that we're not requesting, and then there's 2 additional ones, but 4 of the waivers, even though we understand it's not vested in this project, we are asking for 4 waivers that were previously approved. Again, this sort of speaks to some of the waivers here, and just sort of highlighting, I know that the vehicular use area adjacent to the streets was reduced. Again, we were trying to maximize our parking, essential parking for the site, while still allowing for the terminal islands to allow for the trees, which I think is the intent of the code there. And again, we're highlighting the property that's the buffer that's adjacent to the adjacent property. As I mentioned, there's some shared parking that we're looking at, particularly there's an accessible space that we're providing for the law firm. And so not having that buffer benefits really both projects for allowing the parking, and then having that parking in close proximity to the adjacent parcel really helps the adjacent parcel. So that's why we're asking for that. Scott had mentioned the parking and the proximity. We are 715 feet away from the Rick Thomas garage there. I believe in the existing PDA that the university has for parking, there's about 750 excess parking spaces available. As Scott mentioned, most of the people living here will be freshmen. They are not allowed to bring cars to campus, so that helps. I believe in the TIA, there's an alternate parking study that basically shows the demand of 123 spaces is really the demand for this project, and there's an excess of 123 parking spaces and the Rick Thomas garage, which again, as I said, is under 1,000 feet, 715 feet away from campus. We talked about the green space, Scott mentioned it, you know, that 2,400 square feet of amenity space that we're providing on the second level is providing a safe, secure space, exterior covered, so that you can use that space year round for the students. And really that's about 49% of the required green space there on site. And then again, this green space requirement is really coming into play because we're not allowed, we don't have the garage to sort of take up that building area, and so it's creating that amount of green space. But again, just like the previous project, we have essential ground floor building uses, you know, to operate the building. And then as Scott mentioned about the residential communities above, the size of them, they're also sized appropriately with the RA ratios, like the ideal ratio. So the two wings of the building sort of really is sort of ideally sort of scaled. And so that's another reason we're requesting that waiver. And as Scott mentioned, you know, the University of Tampa provides this green space, you know, to the benefit of the city of Tampa. The students will spend most of their time here on campus and have plenty of opportunity to these programmed and unprogrammed green spaces at the university. You know, I think some of the feedback we've heard is the desire for type 1 trees. You know, currently in our PD plan, we show a combination of type 1 and type 2 trees. We've really considered, you know, gone and thought about the type 1 trees here. And so what we're proposing right now, we have a 10-foot long 6x10 planting buffer. We're saying we could extend that to 6x16 and then provide more type 1 trees, and maybe looking at specialty cultivars that are sort of more upright in nature. Obviously thinking about, you know, how these trees are going to survive or thrive, you know, providing that structural soil along the streetscape and allow the root zone to really be able to be healthy to support that. And then in this proposal right here, you can see we have type 1 trees around each streetscape along South Boulevard, West Cleveland, and South Fielding. So we're not showing this in our PD document, but we're prepared to modify our document between the first and second reading to incorporate this if this is something that is desired. One of the other things I neglected to mention, our current PD plan is stating that we have a 0 foot setback on South Boulevard, and we would like to amend that as well. We are currently showing a 2 to 3 foot setback along, you know, some of the building, and then it sits back an additional 18 feet at the entry, and then another 9 feet along the dining, grab-and-go dining I'd mentioned along the northern side of South Boulevard. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Is anybody else, anything else from the applicants? Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, Tyler, could you, Mr. Hudson, I remember that case very well from a few years ago, but could you just tell, you showed the renderings and everything a minute ago, but could you just remind everyone what could be built if you did the old project? What's approved right now?
Sure. So you could build a 6.7 FAR. So a building that's literally twice the size. We also had a really significant parking waiver there. It was really, and I was representing that developer. Scott was not fond of that development. Because that's where unity is a great thing. It was distorted because the bed count, the city code stops requiring more parking spaces after you get to an incremental point in the size of bedrooms. So it had a really significant parking waiver.
What was it? Could you just tell us what the difference was between the parking?
It was a 40% parking waiver based on just the number of bedrooms, but when you consider that
Do you
there
remember
are
how
more
many
beds, how many units?
So, yeah, how many units is that? Like how many parking spaces were not covered there?
How many parking spaces were not, I mean, I was 150, I believe, 200.
And how many are not, how many are you asking?
The reduction here is, I think around 400. I mean, it's a greater degree, but again, the whole point, and I think the reason for the dissent with the university was there was no control. It could have just been a bunch of random people living there who had nothing to do with the university. Since the university owns this, when Scott says it's going to be freshmen, he can make sure that that's freshmen.
Yeah, and I remember, Scott may want to comment on it, but I remember, I think Dr. Vaughn came in and spoke also. And,
he did as well.
And the whole issue was that it was not connected to the school, and so they wouldn't provide.
It was. So the issue was when you look at like an apartment style, that's typically our juniors and seniors that park in those types of projects. And our juniors and seniors park between 77 and 85% statistically on campus. So the previous project had 192 stall parking garage, a few surface stalls, so it was about 200. So if you're putting juniors and seniors in there, what we were concerned with as a university was they were going to park on campus.
Is there any new parking on campus compared to that application?
Yes.
How much more?
So when we opened the Grand Center, we put, 450 stalls in the Grand Center when we just opened that. So that's the reason why we currently have a surplus of parking right now.
Okay.
And on our current master plan, we also have plans for another garage. So if we ever felt the need to have another, or we start butting up against those boundaries, we would build another common deck to handle future parking needs.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Councilwoman Hurtak. And CCTV, can you put her up on the screen, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First of all, is this apartment style or is this more dorm style?
It's dorm style, so it's the
Okay.
same
So
same
no
style
kitchen.
of housing that we put in the Grand Center. So yes, it's dorm style, so a Jack and Jill bathroom with two bed units on either side.
And no kitchens?
No kitchens, no.
Okay. See, that's one of the important things for me is that this truly is a dorm. My secondary question goes to the fact that there are 800 beds, and you had to know this was coming, 54 bike parking spaces protected. And that's not going to be enough, I don't believe, for the amount of students. Even if you only have an eighth of or a 10th, that's still 80 bike parking spaces. And I know you talked about adding bike parking along South Boulevard. The problem with that is that bikes average $2,000 to $3,000 for low-end bikes.
Yep.
Students with good bikes are not going to want to park those on the street. So I was hoping that there would be more interior bike parking for residents.
And Ms. Hurtak, I can tell you that we're actively working on that. Obviously, when you submit a PD, you have to put something that you can guarantee you're going to hit, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So we definitely challenged our team. We wanted to put a conservative number that we're in there. As you can imagine, at this phase of the project, you're still manipulating things like generator sizes and these things that can make things come and go. We're aware we do want to get more parking spaces. All of our current bike spaces are all protected, indoor and covered. There's definitely some low-hanging fruit to add some others. And I think you're aware of this, but as you know, we just recently became a bike certified campus. We do have that bike share program just straight up Boulevard on there, where we do have another protected bike shelter. So when you go into our fitness center, all the students that are here will have access to those free bikes just with their student ID card. So I'm with you. I want to get more bike parking spaces on this lot. We wanted to put a number that we knew we could beat. And obviously we're trying to continue to provide additional resources to the students, because I'm with you. We definitely want to promote more multimodal.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And that's just one thing I would really love to see. Otherwise, I appreciate the thoughtful detail that went into this. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And along the same lines, it was different from the last time we were here on the same property.
Yeah.
And I remember President Vaughn coming here. And you do have an excessive of parking areas. I don't know what you do with it, Henry. I don't know who it belongs to, but I see more kids walking up and down.
Yes, sir.
They walk everywhere. And when you're on Kennedy Boulevard, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock in the evening or 11 o'clock at night, you see kids just walking everywhere and enjoying the Tampa. And I believe, and there's no statistics on this, but I would imagine some of those kids are staying in Tampa much, making it a permanent home. And I think the engine has started at the University of Tampa as being one of the biggest assets that the city has had in many, many years. Was it like that 50 years ago? Absolutely not. And when I saw the name Thomas on the garage, I believe that gentleman played football, was a fantastic player. I forget if he played defense or offense. He was either defensive back or wide out or something. But he played fantastic with the Gazel and the Gazel brothers and Matuzak and all them guys that they had, Noah Jackson, and they were fantastic. It's nothing to do with the zoning, but I'm telling that university has come. There'll be an economic engine for the city of Tampa, whether this passes or not. And it is what it is, and the past president and the present president have done an outstanding job in maintaining that it's done what it's supposed to do. And we have very little problems with the university, and I'm glad to see that, if any at all. And I'm not saying that for any reason, but before I vote, I gotta say, yes, I went there. Bill Poe told me one day I was too smart to be stupid, and I still believe I'm stupid better than smarter. But he asked me to go back, finish my last 2 years, and there's why I went. And I've been a donor every year, so I gotta say that before I vote, so nobody says Miranda's doing something, taking advantage one way or the other, and that's today's politics. It wasn't like that 50 yeyears ago either. But thank you very much for what you're doing.
Did you breathe during that entire discussion?
Pardon me?
Did you breathe?
I don't have to breathe, I got 4 lungs.
Oh my God. Well, you actually stole my thunder. I was going to request that you have a full disclosure on your alma mater with that kind of glowing like review. Scott, I concur with Councilwoman Hurtek, although I'm not as fanatical about the bicycles as she is, but I still support it. I understand. I was a campus guy 1,000 years ago with a bicycle. I think they need more bicycle, but I was kind of like caught my ear about Boulevard because you don't have a lot of room out there. Where would they go? I don't want to see bicycles on the sidewalks.
No, I think, I'll be honest, I don't really know where the team was looking at putting that. I'm assuming it's kind of where the building steps back north of the entrance.
Again, Chris Fortner. We were looking at the furniture zone. We were really creating a defined furniture zone where we have our light poles. So like in the space in between the tree wells, we were kind of thinking for short-term parking. Really, that's where that would be. Like I'm going home, just need to run up or spend some time or visit a friend. That was really what those were intended for. There may be some other opportunities.
Yeah, all too often we see, especially with these rental bikes, that we see these things. Even though you've got them there, they end up laying on the sidewalks.
We're plagued with it.
Yeah,
no, I can appreciate that.
Any other option that's not directly on the sidewalk, I think, should be pursued if you have other options. But it was interesting looking at the site plan because what I totally missed was that Hogg Law Firm. I could not figure out why you had that building set back the way you did from Cleveland. Because I'm going, why didn't you bring that forward to the street? Now I get it. You got a building there. So I don't know how that was missed on the Xerox copies. That's the whole line. The copies that I saw that there was a building instruction there. Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, just to add, when I speak at the University of Tampa, especially because of this case, the other case, I'll ask the students, how many of you ride your bicycle to campus, how many of you drive, and how many of you walk? And it's almost 100% driving. I don't know that I rarely see bicycles on campus, and I know it's an aspiration, but everybody's driving. And one of the questions is if we have a shortage of parking spaces, how many spaces are the bicycle racks taking up? But just because we aspire to do something doesn't mean that people are going to do it. So I have a concern about if students are driving. Now granted, I don't speak to freshman classes, so it's probably the older ones. But and I went to the University of Tampa too, and a lot of, except for the foreign students, I think almost all of them had cars. And so they may not drive it on campus, but if they have a car that they have to go to the grocery store with or whatever, or to their job, where are they going to park that?
So it's a great question, Councilman Carlson. So if you look across our campus, kind of similar to the comment I made about parking and green space, we have kind of consolidated bike storage areas. So the Rick Thomas garage, when you go underneath the speed ramp coming in, underneath of that is this huge bike storage area. So it's absolutely massive. If you haven't seen it, it's right across the front door from campus safety, underneath that bridge overpass there. So a lot of our students keep their bikes there. The new bike storage that we put in the Grand Center, they keep them there. We have had some very unsuccessful bike parking, to kind of go back to your comment. So when we built the Delaware parking garage, which is on the west side of campus, that's the garage right behind the lacrosse stadium, the one that Dr. Vaughn and I built about 6 years ago. We put a beautiful bike parking area in there. We had cameras, we had the vertical racks, the horizontals. It was beautiful, never used. I think we built capacity in there for about 200 spaces for bikes, and on any given day we would find 6 or 7 bikes in there. So really what we've been learning is unless it's really, really conveniently located, they won't use it. So one of the things that we've been trying to focus is it's not just a matter of just checking a box and providing bike parking, it's a matter of providing it in the right locations. So when we look at this building, I think it's important to provide enough biking for the students that live there, But as we look at like campus bike parking, it really needs to be more central, because that's where the kids like to put their bikes and leave it. And then when they use it for riding on the new West River Walk, or, you know, going downtown and doing that fun stuff on the weekends when they have more time, then they kind of go.
So the other, I mean, one of the things about University of Tampa is it brings in a bunch of rich kids. Not all of them are rich. I wasn't rich, but I don't know if Charlie was. But they, you know, there are a lot of nice cars, and so if they're freshmen and they have a car that they had in high school and they're bringing it from where are they supposed to park it?
So they're not allowed to bring it. So once again, it goes back to our policy, you are not allowed to bring a car to campus as a freshman.
But so what if they bring I'm just thinking ahead, if they, I know what the neighborhood's probably concerned about is they're gonna bring their car, park it in the neighborhood, you guys will never see it.
Well, then they're subject to enforcement at those properties, right, which we have.
So can you kick them out of the school if they bring the car and they hide it?
So when they bring a car to campus or into any of our lots that doesn't have our parking passes on it, you know, what we try to do from an enforcement perspective is we try to scale it up. So you get a warning, then you get booted. A boot means you have to go in there, and campus safety kind of reads you the riot act, if you will.
But is it possible that 200 freshmen could stay in this and then hide their cars by parking them in the neighborhood?
I don't think so. I don't think so, no.
Okay, hearing no other questions, you're done with the presentation?
Yep.
Well, one last question. The type 1 trees that you have that you said you're adding those between first and second reading?
Yeah, so we've got a revised revision sheet to the point that was made earlier about the bike parking. I don't like to be the boy that cried wolf. We are in a rush. If student housing is constructed a day late, that is a year late. So we filed what we knew we could do. So there's a mix of type 1s and type 2s, dug a little deeper. I've been here before, I'm aware of the preference for type 1 trees. So that is something that will be made between first and second reading, along with the change to ensure that the site data table setbacks conform to what we're actually showing on the landscape plan, so that the numbers, the words, and the pictures all tie together so we can get that permit we need so badly.
That's good. Just want to make sure you have the trust but verify kind of thing. Just make sure that they're.
Big verify guy.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay,
In fact, if I may, I know that this university paid about $75,000 to move a grand tree once about 25 years ago. If I remember now when you brought up the tree. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing it up.
Okay, sweet. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak to this item? Come on in. Go ahead. Start with your name, please.
Good evening, Council. Simone Savino Brown with Barbara Kramer, 2002 West Cleveland Street, 203 Tampa, number 203 Tampa 3306, and I've been sworn. I'm here on behalf of FCG Tampa Heights LLC. FCG is the only adjacent property owner to UT's parcel to the north, so FCG owns both the vacant lot that's zone PD as well as the multifamily building directly to the north of this project. We are here because we are trying to work something out with UT, and we want council to be aware of some issues that we're trying to figure out in this process. For example, UT wants to remove one of our trees, which is a 27-inch southern live oak. It happens to be protected, and our residents love it. I have a photo here for you. It's in the back corner. I hope you can see. It's being pointed to.
It'll come up.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
And so we're just trying to figure out if that's possible. We're also working on a redevelopment plan that's acceptable to both parties for the entire block, just given the amount of parcels FCG owns. So unfortunately, these discussions are feeling a little bit rushed because we understand that this hearing was moved up from an original April 9th date. So we're working as fast as we can. There has been a proposed agreement between the parties, and we're in active conversations about this, but we have concerns, and we just hope we can work through those. So I just wanted to come here and give council some background. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public wishes to speak to this item? Would the applicant like a rebuttal?
Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. This is an important project. It is a good project. It merits your support, and we hope you'll approve it. As to the neighbor, lawyers are just lawyering about lawyer stuff. We're going to figure it out. Thanks. Have a good night. Lawyers are lawyering about
We're
lawyer
on
stuff.
the record.
Yeah, that's our quote.
We have a motion to close for Councilman Vieira. We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco, and we have a staff person approaching the podium.
Thank you. For the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Before we move any further, I just wanted to kind of run through the items that we're looking to have revised between first and second reading and see if the applicant concurs with that.
Perfect.
So number one, add bike parking along Boulevard. The planting buffer extended to provide type 1 trees along Boulevard. We're looking to correct the setback along Boulevard to be a 2-foot setback. This is a building setback along Boulevard. Amend the parking waiver, so they're removing one space, so they would be providing 40 surface parking spaces on site. And then, of course, they're looking to provide a revised landscape plan.
The setbacks were variable depending on where on Boulevard. They weren't just one setback,
Okay with
right?
that, right? Yeah, we're okay with the 2 instead of the 0.
Okay.
It might vary more, it might go more than that.
More,
We can
yeah.
do that without getting in
Okay.
trouble. It's
Okay,
the
good.
going back to the street that gets us.
And are you just
problems.
restricting the expanded bike parking to just a Boulevard, or do you need more opportunity to?
If council's okay with that, I mean, I think, we'd like to depict bike parking where possible on the streets that encircle. It's not going to be everywhere, but I think just depict exterior bike parking, which we can depict where we can do it. I know we can do some on Boulevard. I don't want to be overly prescriptive because again, this goes to the PD, this goes to permitting.
That's what tickled my attention. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Sometimes less is more. I think just depict surface bike parking would probably do it, and we'll depict what we can depict.
Okay, sounds good to me. Is everybody good with that?
And we are okay with that as the agent. Thank you.
Okay. So we have an agreement. We have a motion to close from Councilman Vera, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Where do we leave with it? Are you up to read this one? I can't remember where we're at. Well, back to Councilman Carlson.
Move file number REZ 26-32, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 110 South Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification, PD plan development to PD plan development, residential multifamily parking off-street commercial, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Young. Yes. Vieira. Yes. Carlson.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Hurtek.
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on April 2nd, 2026 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
8 o'clock.
I was hoping by 7:30, so I'm disappointed. So that concludes our business for the regular business. Thank you, Scott. It's good to see you, man. That concludes our regular scheduled business. New business, Councilman Carlson.
I just want to bring up, because we can't talk about this outside of this meeting, but I listened to the Charter Review Commission meeting the other day. Did any of you all listen to that?
I did.
And you may have some comments about it. But I think somebody needs to talk to the facilitator. As I understand it, the way it works is the chair calls the meeting to order, and then the facilitator takes over. And in the meeting, one person spent about half the time talking. And there should, in city council meetings or Robert's rules, typically you create a process where everybody gets a chance to talk, and you cut people off with a timer after certain amounts. And I don't want to be prescriptive to them, because I think they should be allowed to do what they want. But I imagine that the folks who want to speak feel like they're not able to because there's no control over letting people talk. And so one would be, ideally the chair would run it and the facilitator would give advice, and let them run it themselves with the facilitator giving input. But if the facilitator is going to run it, then I think there should be a rule, again, not for us to be prescriptive, for them to create their own rule, but something like 2 or 3 minutes like we do, and 2 bites at the apple. The other thing is, I think we had asked them not to go line by line, but they're going really slowly line by line, and then they're skipping through the questions. So the way they did it is they say, well, the city council says that they want to know whether the city attorney should follow bar rules, or they want to know if the city attorney if the city council should have more control of the city attorney. And then they'll turn around to each other and say, well, what does that mean? I don't know what it means. I don't know either what it means. Well, okay, let's skip to the next thing then. The facilitator is, instead of providing information for them, is pushing them to the next item. And I strongly object to that. We sat in a hour and a half, 2-hour meeting where we discussed each of these to decide whether to put them on. And I think at least half of our appointees have listened to that video, but there's instructions in there or insights into what city council thinks. And I don't think the facilitator, if they vote as a group, if there's a consensus of the group that they don't agree with our question, that's fine. But for the facilitator to push them through for time's sake and then go back to going line by line, I just strongly object to that. And all this discussion about what did council mean? The other thing is they've requested, I think they voted, or at least they talked about having the chair come answer questions. I think they can watch the video. If the chair wants to speak, that's fine, but they should watch the video of all of our discussion on these items, and we should just encourage them to do that. The other thing is that the new city attorney spoke, and he answered questions and talked to them. He is representing the city attorney's office in a time of calm, not what we went through 6, 7, 8 years ago. And if you're just going based on our experience with Scott Steady so far, you would not put any additional restrictions. If you go back to the time when the more than one city attorney was adverse to city council, there definitely should be more restrictions. And I think the most egregious of them was when we discovered on our own that the city attorney's office had written a 2-paragraph memo saying they didn't have to get city council's approval on settlement agreements, and they had approved hundreds of them without our approval. And I mean that it was obviously against the charter. There was an ordinance on the books. The city attorney from 2018 said, my memo hereby supersedes all ordinances, which is illegal. It doesn't follow the charter. And they proceeded with that for several years until we discovered it by accident. And there are multiple cases like that we need to go through and fix. So anyway, I'm going to talk to my appointee more, but I think somehow we need to recommend to them that we give more time for people to talk about our questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I concur with most of your observations. Councilman Vera. Oh, I'm new business. You want to respond to that?
Well, we look the same hair.
No, I'm just going down new business. I mean, did you want to talk about?
Well, you can come. I'll wait.
Yeah, and I'm doing new business, and I go down the line.
Yes, sir. I got a request. There's an organization. I'm going to send a memo out on it. They're having a Alliance for Global Security, funded by Hillsborough County, for a security-related conference. It's going to be taking place at the University of South Florida in early April of 2026, dealing with potential homeland security threats to the city of Tampa. To be clear, this is threats because in today's political culture, I want to make sure I specify what that means, from foreign states. I'm not talking about immigration issues or ICE or anything like that.
Or attorney generals.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, don't get me started. And so the Hillsborough County voted unanimously, the county commissioners did, to fund this USF forum that's going to be in early April with $25,000. I'm not asking for money, by the way, and as well as to do a resolution. And so I'm motioning to bring back to City Council a resolution which will identically mirror what Hillsborough County Commission did, in support of the Alliance for Global Securities Forum that's going to be held at University of South Florida in April 2026 on Homeland Security as it pertains to cyber and other domestic threats. Again, this was passed unanimously by Hillsborough County Commission, and I motion for this to come back, I apologize, March 26th of 2026. Again, we'll pass out all the information, but that's my motion.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco.
I have a question.
Vera, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Councilwoman Hurtak.
So I'm not understanding what exactly this is.
It is a forum dealing with potential homeland security threats here in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County.
Like what?
Could be cybersecurity, could be terrorist actions, any, think kind of speaks for itself.
Mr.
Wait,
I guess that's what I'm just not trying, I'm trying to understand. This is a resolution to just say,
that, yes, ma'am, that we support the efforts that are being done at this forum in order to discuss so how about this, Councilwoman Hurtak? The resolution, this is merely to put it on the docket. It's not to support the resolution. So again, it's merely to put a placeholder on March 26th. So you can take a look at the resolution. We'll pass it out to you. But again, it just deals with potential terror, cyber, and other security threats here to Tampa. And
yeah,
that's
if
just
you
heightened
could
alert.
pass out the county's one, I would just be interested.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, no, because
I'm still trying to figure out what it is, but thank you.
there you go. Thank you.
March 26th is a really full agenda, by the way.
Mr. Chairman, that's going to be, sorry, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, not to involve myself, but just for the purposes of what is being discussed, that'll be presented beforehand, obviously. And you could actually, your office could actually forward, if you like, to the council members what the county did. But,
could be a
Mr. Chairman,
consent agenda.
respectfully, I think this would be just something that would not take much time.
That's what I'm thinking, is if this would be ideally put on the consent agenda, if
It could very well be set
Absolutely.
up that way if we get it timely.
And what I'll tell you what, as a stipulation, if any council member, because again, I don't think anything's going to happen here, but if any council member has a challenge with it, we can put it on March 26th. And if there's going to be more than 2 minutes of time taken on this, then we can bump it to April 2nd.
Okay, well, let's just plan it. We'll plan on the 26th.
That's y'all have my word.
We'll plan it out as a breezeway and be done, okay?
That's my motion. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion from Viera, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? I have it.
Thank you, Board.
Okay. Councilwoman Young.
Alrighty, so I already talked about this earlier, but just to reiterate that our office is continuing to work with our legal team regarding community concerns on local stores throughout the district. Our legal team, we've already spoken with legal team and they're reviewing additional documentation, and they're also going to be visiting some of those stores. So we've just wanted to, I already said it earlier, but just putting that out there again for anyone that missed it the first time. And then, so a couple of things. I had the opportunity to attend a couple of events throughout the district. We went to an event for Ramadan, which was hosted by the city of Tampa. The food was fantastic, and it was really nice just to see everybody coming together in community. I also attended the National BBCB, which is Believe, Build, Complete, Become Summit, formerly known as Black, Brown, and College Bound Summit, which was held in Tampa. And the summit had great speakers, including my younger brother, Owen Young, who introduced the main speaker, who was actor Blair Underwood, who gave a wonderful keynote speech. And that summit provides an avenue for students in higher education to network with accomplished professionals. It was very, very nice. And they also honored my predecessor, Councilwoman Gwen Henderson. So it was very nice. I went to the Skills Center Sneaker Ball. There were some scholarships that were presented to students who participated in the Skills Center's programs. And President and CEO Celeste Roberts announced that the Gray Family Fund has made a commitment to the Skills Center with a $100,000 endowment in the memory of the late Mr. Stanley Gray. So that was really nice. And we actually had a student at our table who was recognized as well. So that was very nice. I went to the Indie Noir Spring Market, which was held in Ybor City at the 1920 venue. It's a quarterly market that has local Black and minority businesses. They had yoga on the rooftop. They have artists. And they even, this time around, they actually had high school students that were volunteering with the market. So it was very well attended, very nice. They had a karaoke. They had a local artist that did some of his own music. So it was a really nice event. Then we spent some time with the Howard University. As you know, I am a Howard University alumni, as so my parents, HU, you know. And we spent time with the Howard University Bison swim team during their stay in Florida while they are competing for nationals. So they were at the Florida Aquarium, hosted them, had an awesome visit. They even had some students that participated in the aquarium sea trek, where they actually go in the water with the fish and the tortoises. So we actually got to see them. It was really nice. And then after that, they also went to some schools throughout the district to teach water safety classes. We went to the book signing, Alice Moore's book signing at the Peace Progressive Community Church with Pastor Timothy Kemp. And the book contains family and community history with memories of Don Thompson Vocational School, which is now known as Howard W. Blake High School, which I did not know. And so she has a lot of pictures in the book, which just happens to be actually from her family photo album. So it's a very nice book. It's a very nice book signing. We stopped by an East Tampa constituent's home who was having an issue with her alley and parking. And she actually called our office the other day and was like, I'm still surprised that you all actually stopped by my house to see what was going on with my alley. So that was really nice. We went over to Dawn and Family Services, which is formerly known as the Alpha House, and we got a tour and learned about all the services and resources that they provide. Nebraska Avenue Business Association had their meeting at Duff's, and they are working on revitalizing Nebraska Avenue. They are a fantastic group. We toured the Robles Park Village construction site. Construction may start as early as August, September. East Ybor and Gary Neighborhood Association meeting, which was fantastic. Also toured the Shanna and Brian Glazer JCC, which was awesome. If you haven't been there, it's fantastic. And also, today there's a little market that happens in the Breezeway there, and I went, and there's a gentleman who was selling different types of brittle, peanut brittle, chocolate brittle, all kinds of brittle. And it's Psalms Brittle. I actually got a little variety pack, so if anybody wants to try some, you are more than welcome to try it. He is there once a month.
I thought you were going to give out Sam.
Thank you.
I have them. They're there.
They're here.
Yeah, they're right there. So if you want to try some, I have some. I bought a bunch
Always
of little
Guido in
samples.
line for the food.
Yes. So that is all.
Okay,
Thank
Councilman
you.
Maniscalco.
I have a few motions, so I'd like to make a motion that second reading and adoption be scheduled for March 26, 2026 at 10 a.m. for file number E 2026-8, Chapter 2, which was previously approved as a first reading consideration on February 5th, 2026 as a walk-on item. This public hearing was inadvertently omitted from the March 5th agenda, and the city clerk's office has properly noticed for the March 26th date. This is the ordinance entitled Representation and Reimbursement in the Defense of Elected Officials to include city council members acting in their capacity as CRA members.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, second motion, I'd like to make a motion from Tampa International Airport to give a, let's say 10-minute, it might be shorter, update at the May 21st, 2026 regular session meeting under presentation.
How are we doing on the date? Is it good? You checked it?
Yeah, we checked through.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
Quick one here, I'd like to make a motion to remove the following motion from the April 2nd council meeting. The motion was made by Council Member Hurtak on March 5th, 2026, and it was heard today on the CRA agenda. It was item number 65 for that $10 million resolution. So since we moved it, I just want to remove it from that passage.
If I can, I'm sorry.
I-
Is that a motion?
Doesn't it have to go to regular council to be approved?
I'm confused.
We discussed item 65 because it had, it was a CRA connection.
Oh, and you made the motion today?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you're asking what to be removed from when?
So since we took it off the regular agenda and put it on a CRA agenda, it's now removing it from that past agenda for the regular meeting.
I hear you. I see you, Lynn. Hold on. Okay, Councilwoman Hurtak.
I mean, yes, we approved it at the CRA, but then we have to put our council hats on and approve budget stuff as council.
I don't know, this was a request that came from the clerk.
Is it?
Okay.
Remind me, 65.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, let's get her on just to clarify. This came from Charlene.
Sulang.
While we're waiting, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, I just don't recall what that item 65 was. I do remember you having.
It's $10 million for, to help with pre-development costs.
that's all CRA money.
Yeah.
So it was,
Yes,
it was
but
something
we
that was,
still, I mean, even with CRA money, we still have to approve it as council members.
if I understand correctly, and correct me please if I'm wrong, this was an item that historically, items are approved by the CRA as an agency before it comes to city council for approval, and this is something that had not been brought to the CRA previously? Is that my understanding? Or not the case?
Basically.
So basically, what happens is once it's taken up by the CRA, then it's set for the city council as a result.
That was my understanding.
I'm confused. If the CRA approves the expenditure, why is it coming to its council?
Because it's a budgetary change.
Yeah.
It's a budgetary change.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, we do it
They're
all the
usually in consent.
There is, I don't know if it's in council, if it's in CRA's bylaws, but there's certainly, I do recall, it was a motion of city council, either as the CRA or as city council, and it dates back to, I believe, when council member Reddick either was chair or was on council, that the protocol is expenditures shall be reviewed as a CRA before they're brought to city council for a budget amendment.
Do you want to hold off on this if we don't have Sue Ling online to
Sure.
March 26th?
She said, tell them that the motion was to reschedule from April 2nd to CRA this morning.
It was done.
That's how it was mentioned. She said they stated rescheduled, so it's how it was mentioned.
What, today?
It sounds like it's done then.
It's just this is asked to remove it from the April 2nd council meeting, because the motion was made that this agenda item originally be continued on March 5th to April 2nd, 2026 under staff reports and unfinished business.
So if I understand what you're saying, again, Martin Shelby, if I understand what you're saying is that, yes, you made the motion to have it appear on the CRA, but it still is scheduled to appear on the city council, and now what you're asking is it to be, the clerk is now asking it to be removed from the April 2nd.
That's right.
Because,
She said that's why we're requesting, if you want to keep it on April 2nd, it's fine.
All right.
but it won't be heard by the CRA before then, will it?
We heard it today.
We
you heard it
discussed
today.
this morning. Let's
but
just do this. Let me
can't be.
hold on this motion because we have March 26th, and if we have to take something off, can we take something off for April 2nd? All right. I'll hold off on this for further clarification. Thank you.
My head is in a spin.
Yes, my last motion is request that the Planning Commission come to provide a 15-minute presentation on the newly adopted single-member district boundaries at council's regular meeting on May 21st, 2026 under presentations. Can we check the calendar?
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda, adding 5,000 people to Councilman Young's district. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
That's it,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, that's it. Councilman Miranda,
Thank you, sir.
no new business.
Oh, yes, I have 15 of them.
Go.
All right, we'll start with number one is the electric bikes that we have that are out by contract. And there's a clause that, if I remember years back, that they're supposed to pick them up every night and send them to wherever they're supposed to put them at. And I've had discussion with the city on that item, and it's not the city's fault. They're lagging behind these things getting picked up from the neighborhoods. And every day on certain corners, and I can name them to you, but I'll name you one or two just for reference. On Armenia Avenue and Main Street, they're right there sitting in the sidewalk. They do not pick them up and move them around. And one that I had there for many weeks, and I've called the city and they did an excellent job. It wasn't their fault. On the corner of 600 block of Louisiana and MacDill Avenue, and I wasn't gonna bring this up, but every time I drive by, that one was picked up last night after 6 weeks of being there, one of those bikes. So there was an agreement made way back that if they didn't pick them up, they got fined. If they continue doing that, then they had a problem with the city's legal department and the contracting the way it was written. So if it continues, I'm not saying, I don't want any action now, but if it continues, I'm putting that, whoever the owners are of that business, on order that we will file whatever the necessary thing to get them out of the contract because they're not picking up those bikes.
I agree.
And it's a
Anything else?
danger to society and danger to everybody.
Anything else?
That's it, sir.
That wasn't 15.
Well, I owe you 14 then.
Okay, I'll take that IOU.
One other one, regarding, and I'm not against Mr. Carlson's motion, but when I appoint somebody, if they don't call me, I don't go to any meeting. And the chairman, whoever that person is, if he has a problem, he should come to us and tell us. That's my only feel about it. I don't know how y'all feel. I'm not against what he's saying, but I appoint somebody, they're on their own, baby.
That's right.
Our chair is a she.
Huh?
And my comments were about the facilitator, not our appointee.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with the easy things first. Actually, I need to, Councilman Hurtak, could you be chair?
No,
Yes.
sorry.
No, sorry. Okay, Councilman Maniscalco, thank you. I would like to make a motion to provide a commendation for Corencia Ciagla to recognize her years of dedicated service to the city of Tampa on a date to be determined.
Second.
We have a motion from Chairman Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
For
opposed?
those of you that don't know, you know she's leaving us.
Who's
So
that?
she's going to, Corencia is going to
Oh, yeah, I
retire.
heard that yesterday.
Yeah, so she's going to retire. Well-deserved retirement. Again, a second retirement. So to address a couple of those things that were just said, I will have that discussion to ensure that there's fair and balanced discussion. At least bring it to the attention, because sometimes you have to bring things like, I think fair and balanced discussion is important. On the line by line, I concur. I'll have that kind of conversation with them as well. There's two things I wanted to get consensus with you guys before I brought it up to them, and they did invite me to come. I am going to accept that invitation. In light of that, I think it's important. I mean, maybe I'm out there in left field, but I think for them as a discovery body, as that, they're not all experts on city business, council business, and how all these things work. So I think they're dependent upon subject matter experts, and I think the seven of us are, well, some of us are more subject matter experts than others. I'm looking at you, Charlie. But I think having us available for them to just come, like if they wanted to speak to any one of us about our experiences, and so they could ask us, well, why do you feel this is important? Or why do you feel, what is your observations? I think it's appropriate for them to ask us to come down, not compel us to come down, but if they wanted to come, if they wanted to call Councilman Carlson and said, what have you observed between the relationship between the city attorney's office and the city council, and how do you, what solutions are you looking for? I think that's an important discussion to have. Again, I think because they're not subject matter experts. So, I mean, can I share that the council is okay with them asking people to come down and have those kind of conversations?
But that's what the facilitator's job is, not mine.
No, but I'm
Yeah, I
saying.
understand. If they have a point of discussion that they can't, I understand.
Well, I think
that
some
part.
of them feel like that there's, it's inappropriate to ask us to come down and talk to them. So I just want to make sure
not at all.
they know.
And to Charlie's point earlier, I'm not going to voluntarily go down there. If they want me to, I'm happy to. But otherwise, I agree that they should be.
Yeah.
They should, if they seek questions, we can get that. My concerns are about the
Oh,
facilitator.
and one other thing. Tomorrow morning, I gotta get up early. I gotta speak at Café con Tampa.
Café con Tampa. Councilwoman Hurtak.
My concern with that only is if they invite each one of us to talk about the same thing, that they're just gonna draw out the same topic. And they're not answering the questions that we already have. So
Hopefully that is the facilitator's job to keep that from happening. So, yeah.
agreed, but
Okay, but I mean, I don't think it's inappropriate for them to ask for, and not just
No,
us,
they can ask.
for anybody, that they feel like they
Yeah.
need expert testimony from anybody they can ask that question. I agree about the line by line thing.
the only thing I would say is just to ask for a specific topic, not just, hey, come and tell us about everything.
Okay. Did we have a discussion about the line by line? Was that part of our discussion?
I don't think so.
Yes.
But I mean prior, as far as direction.
I don't remember if we voted on it or not, but I don't know if we voted on it or not, but we did say that we didn't think they should go line by line, because that's what Lynn and I had to go through the last time, and there were things that had to happen last time, but it's a way of wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, because they could go line by line individually and then highlight issues as a whole when they're together.
They could answer the questions, and if they have time, they could go back line by line, but.
Is that something this council wants me to bring up to them?
Line by line?
Yeah.
My point is that they're skipping through the questions and they're spending a lot of time line by line, so the proportion is out.
Okay, is there any objection for me bringing that issue up? Okay, I just want to make sure that we have, we have that our conversation before, because I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Martin Shelby, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you say bring it up, you mean with the facilitator or with the board?
With the board, because they've asked me to come down there, so I figured I'm going to be standing there face to face with everybody.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
Thank
Okay.
you for that clarification.
Now, I have one other, and Mr. Shelby, I'm going to read this to you, and I want to get your response first before I bring it up. Another proposal as far as submitting something to them as a solution to a problem. An executive order in conflict with law or ordinance shall be null and void. Thoughts?
What now? Conflict of order.
An executive order in conflict with law or ordinance shall be null and void.
Well, that's just common sense.
Or is it?
Well, it's not, I will tell you that what you're saying to, let me just be clear. You are suggesting or reciting something that you think ought to be in the charter, an insertion into the charter, or change within the charter?
Correct. I'm trying to find a solution to some of the issues that we see.
Well, that's certainly worthy of discussion.
You can try it.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Councilwoman, go ahead. Did you have a comment? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I just said you can try it. I mean, again, I think that's self-evident, but I suppose you are correct that maybe it needs to be in there.
If I can.
Mr. Shelby.
There is no, well, in terms of legislative function, your legislative function is making law, passing ordinances. And in terms of the balance of power, the question is, and what's happened in the past, what has supremacy? An executive order or law and an ordinance? And that's not delineated in the charter. If there is a discrepancy between what city council wants to do and what the executive wants to do, can the executive preempt city council by writing an executive order?
And that's not in the charter now. That seems to be the problem that I see, is that's not highlighted.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I may.
Councilman Vera.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is an executive order on the part of the mayor that conflicts with existing law would be null and void presumptively, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, so the issue is, yes, it would, but who would determine whether, that's the issue, which is who's gonna make that determination on it. Often there's black and white, but then there's gray. There's probably gonna be gray areas on where it is. If you wanna state that as a matter of law, to be put in the charter or to be incorporated, what have you, great, but the devil's going to be into details, which we probably can't work out tonight, but I do think that's a very good issue to bring up with them as a preliminary cursory issue.
Well, I guess my question is, can I bring this up to the Charter Review Commission?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want to do that in the form
Sure.
of consensus?
Well, I want to get that consensus to this before I come down there. Councilman Carlson, you had your line.
But as he just said, all roads lead back to all roads lead back to who controls the city attorney, and we, you know, in the example I gave,
They got to resolve that.
That's the most important issue. If we don't resolve that, the city can't function, and we need to resolve it.
No, I agree. That's got to be so. Councilman Vera, then Mr. Shelby.
Just thinking on top of my head, I mean, if maybe you can have a provision in there saying that if such a conflict arises through an allegation made by a majority of council members, then there can be a procedure to determine through independent legal analysis, maybe by an attorney or law firm jointly retained by the administration and city council, perhaps a method by which someone can give a formal legal opinion with the consent of council and the mayor. Just again.
Sam, mark that 8:32 so we could capture that video if we want to play that for the Charter Review Commission, what Councilman Vera just said. Mr. Shelby.
I think if you go back to what let me rephrase it. They were submitted by Council Member Carlson, but they were adopted. The questions to be presented were adopted by this entire board to be submitted. A lot of those questions go to remedies that are absent in the current charter that this council has been confronting, and I think those questions address that issue, and certainly I think that's something that you may want to raise.
Yeah, and I think that's what seems to be getting lost in translation between our discussion and maybe the discussion that's happening in the CRC. And that's why I think it's important for the subject matter experts, for them to ask for people to come down to get, because there's a lot of context, and especially that I don't personally have, because I wasn't, wasn't involved in certain things that have happened. So I think that that's why it's important for them to talk to folks that have that context or that experience. So they not necessarily to highlight individual things or specific things that happen, but what the construct of it that creates the conflict.
The other thing, I mentioned this before, whether it's a divorce, a marriage, or if it like prenuptial agreement, or if it's a contract for a company, every attorney will say, we're not worried about you guys getting along, we're worried about how you exit, right? So you always have to anticipate how you deal with conflict. And so we're not trying to create conflict, we're trying to avoid conflict by anticipating it. And so if you look, like if Scott Steady is the best case scenario, we can't base you can't base a prenuptial agreement or a corporate agreement on best case scenario. You have to look at what the possibilities are.
Well, that being said, Scott Steady, if you didn't listen to, I thought he did an outstanding job of presenting a really good balanced approach to both the city attorney's position, and even though Marty Shelby, our council attorney, wasn't there, he did a good job of presenting from both sides of kind of a fair and balanced, and the quite honestly, the questions that shouldn't be answered, he didn't answer, and then the ones, ones
I thought he did a great job too.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so you have
Okay.
the consensus here.
Okay, so without objection? Okay, very, one last thing, I'm so sorry. You guys left me with the thing about rewriting the ordinance. After much lost sleep and discussion, and some discussion with Mr. Shelby, I've kind of drew the conclusion that at this point, in attempting to do that I could potentially create a charter crisis in the middle of rewriting the Charter Review Commission. And I didn't want to derail this any further than it was, so I felt rather than search for perfection, let's ride the horse we're on to conclusion and maybe fix this sometime next time around. That we'll just ride the horse that we're on now, and because it could just derail the whole process if we tried to do something right now. So and again, that was a lot of lost sleep and a lot of deliberation. Mr. Shelby?
And Mr. Chairman, you're referring to the initial ordinance that created this charter.
Yeah,
review
and
commission.
we had a subsequent conversation because of the conflict that had happened. And I had said, hey, give me an opportunity to try to take another bite of that apple and rewrite, and just realizing the unintended consequences of doing that could create some hell and havoc and derail the process, and I chose to not go down that path.
Yeah, along those lines, I think just as we hope that the mayor wouldn't submit mandates, she submitted recommendations. I think the tone of your discussion should be recommendations to them. So if they decide, okay, we overrule that, we're going to go line by line, then it's up to them.
Okay. So on Hertech, I saw your hand go up a little bit. Did you?
No.
No, okay.
I'm good.
Okay, very good. Okay, any other new business?
Move to receive and file.
We have a motion to receive and file, second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye. We are adjourned.
Aye.
Hey, happy spring break.
Just